Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. I have to apologize at the top tonight. I am recovering from a nasty cold. I've been coughing and sneezing and hacking up phlegm all week. So if I am in the middle of giving feedback to someone's piece and I just start I don't know, coughing or vomiting or whatever, I just want to apologize in advance. And also, if my voice sounds fucked up, that's why. Anyway, we're gonna get going here. And Alex is up first.
Cool. I'm going to read a story. I had a book come out pretty recently called Dumb Music. This story is called Lucky. The first time I met Lucky, he was lying in the middle of the road, holding up traffic and yelling, "My leg, my leg." He was wearing scuffed white sneakers, blue jeans, and a t-shirt with a few holes in it. Lucky's face was slightly dirty, young enough that he didn't have to start shaving yet, his dimples evident on his smooth face. They were in full effect as he grimaced, standing in front of the stopped car. "Are you okay?" I heard the driver say. I was standing on the sidewalk, watching the driver twitch slightly as he jumped out of his car. I didn't see exactly when the driver ran into Lucky. I turned the moment I had heard the driver screech on his brakes, and Lucky let out that horrible yelp. Without responding, Lucky rolled on the floor. He looked like a rolling pin, but with shampoo and conditioned, flowing brown hair. He was a particularly pretty man who looked anywhere from 16 to 40 years old. "You came out of nowhere," the driver continued. He began to pace slightly back and forth. He was an older man with hairy arms and a slightly frazzled haircut. He looked like he reeked of cigarettes and diet soda. "Please, call an ambulance. You ran over my leg." "Ow," Lucky said back to him. The man continued to pace. He didn't even attempt to reach into his pocket and pull out his cell phone. "Let me help you up. Can we just talk?" the man asked. He looked at Lucky, and Lucky said, "Fine." The man placed his greasy hand out, and Lucky grabbed it. He lifted Lucky up. Lucky began to hobble. They walked over to the sidewalk, where I was standing anxiously with my dog, and I heard the man mumble. He was speaking in an almost whisper. I noticed Lucky's face turn from dismay to glee while he whispered something back to the man. The man then followed by pulling out his wallet and handing Lucky a few bills before the two shook hands and the man got back into his car and drove off. I was still staring at Lucky when I noticed he wasn't hobbling in the slightest. He was chuckling as he counted the bills. He licked his index finger and flipped through them. There weren't very many. With each passing bill, his smile grew. "Are you okay?" I asked, too shaken by it all to just be a complete bystander. "Of course, why wouldn't I be?" Lucky said. You just got hit by a car." Lucky smiled. He let out a light little laugh before he placed the bills in his pocket and said, "You're damn right. It's my second accident of the day." Lucky was giggling and bouncing up and down in his tennis shoes. "Second," I screamed back at him. "Yep, and I'm gunning for at least 3 today. I've got rent to pay this week, and if I don't make it, my landlords will smack a big notice on my door and change the locks. He's a real crook." Lucky laughed and walked over to pet my dog. He was rubbing its ears and talking to it in a puppy voice. "What's his name?" "Tony." "Tony, it suits him," Lucky said, before he turned up towards me and said, "And what's your name, ma'am? My name's Lucky, and it's nice to meet you." I looked at him, still in a state of shock and confusion. "Joanna. What a lovely name for a lovely lady with a lovely dog on a lovely day." Lucky was laughing like a maniac. I was completely overwhelmed by what had happened, that when a moment later Lucky flung himself into oncoming traffic, I didn't say a word. "Ow, call an ambulance." Lucky began to roll around on the ground once again. I didn't know what to do. He had dived dramatically onto the hood of a surprisingly slow-moving car and flopped around like he'd been hit by a rush hour train. I just stared in too heavy a state of shock to process it all. Lucky was smiling like a maniac on the concrete. He was rolling and rolling like a bowling ball. And before I even had the chance to think if I should help him, I saw him stop for a moment and give me a big wink before he returned to yelling and moaning when the driver got out of his car.
Alex, that's a fucking great story. Okay, so you had me at the concept because I love works about like petty con artists and shit. And I particularly love that the I love the dimensions of this particular con, right? Because the risks are so incredibly like diabolically high, and the rewards for these people are often like so low. To basically risk your life time and time again for what, maybe a few $100 if you're lucky. It's just a unique pathology, and I love the way you capture it here. This piece is like, it's so direct, it's so concisely and precisely written, and you get a real, even though you don't waste a huge number of words like going deep into like describing Lucky, you craft a clear and indelible character here that like the reader is I don't know, just wants to know more about. Basically, it's a really good hook. And so you have a book that just came out. um is it a short story collection, or is it a novel, or tell us a
Yeah,
little more about your book?
yeah, it's called Dumb Music. I can post a link to it in the chat. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Link to
Yeah,
it in the chat, and maybe Rudy will tweet out the link as well.
cool. Yeah, it's a short story collection. Came out a couple weeks ago. It's got some stories about like pubic hair, and then this one, and then some they're love stories for the most part. I would say so. Here's a link to it. And yeah, there's like, I think 10 in the book, and they're all pretty similar. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. That's awesome. Oh, I let a troll in. Well, if we had planned to monetize this video, that would get it demonetized, but no. Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Okay, Ryan is up next.
Cool. So I'm going to read a chapter from a new book I just finished this summer. Don't have a publisher yet. Still doing a bit of editing. Will has read a little bit of it. He's probably read this chapter. Just to give a little context here, the main character is like a work from home marketer who has sex almost exclusively with whores. He's given up on women and he pays for sex. So, and I'm also reading this piece. I recently had a birthday, feeling a little sorry for myself, getting old. So this piece kind of reflects that. So book is called God and the Machine, and this is from book 1, chapter 6. You hear me, right, Will? Yeah? Everyone hear
Loud
me?
and clear.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
As you age, the body goes from being a source of pleasure to a source of pain. Reaching middle age, you are subject to a litany of small aches and pains that never quite subsides. Something is always physically ailing you, one way or the other. You get uglier, you get fatter, you get slower, you get weaker, your hair falls out. Slowly, things stop working altogether. At a certain point, when life is more pain than pleasure, you stop resisting death. You welcome death with open arms. There was no longer anything to fear losing. I scheduled an appointment with a dermatologist to diagnose genital growths I'd recently developed. One right on the shaft of the penis, and several more on the scrotum. I waited for almost an hour in the waiting room. Some rotten little ship kept having a temper tantrum while his catatonic-looking mother made empty threats. Patients came and went. I tried to guess what they had. Horrible maladies, I was sure. Deadly cancers, and disfiguring rashes, and discolored growths, and beauty-destroying abnormalities. We are impossibly complicated machines, ignorant about our own operation. Contemplating the inner organs, the movement of biles and fluids, electrochemical networks, blood hydraulics, mitochondrial syntheses, glandular secretions, peristaltic contractions, oils and biles and mucus and semen and feces and blood and hair and pus, we feel uneasy, if not outright disgusted. Billions and billions of processes going on inside of us that we have no control over and scarcely understand, yet which have the most drastic consequences on our well-being. I had seen a program on the Discovery Channel that featured an Indian man with something they called tree man syndrome. an extremely rare condition that causes bark-like lesions to grow on the skin. In another segment, a woman had a growth that looked like a corn chip or a petrified slug, what the doctor called a cutaneous horn sprouting out of her head. The long-running program had no lack of material. Week after week, year after year, tales of bodily horror were broadcast in high definition from the sterile studio of a doctor's office. Nature's ability to inflict hurt and humiliation is without boundaries. The unlimited designs of human pain and suffering are truly breathtaking. I knew a man whose faith in God was shattered on the morning he awoke to the pain of a kidney stone. His faith had survived the death of loved ones, the loss of his career, 2 tours in Vietnam, and the dislocation of the church. But his belief in a benevolent God did not survive a tiny deposit of minerals and acid salts dislodging from his kidney and making a long and painful journey down the ureter, and his cursing Jesus' name as he endured 6 long hours of agony. Jesus had made much about a camel passing through the eye of a needle, but the scriptures were conspicuously silent about a stone passing through the eye of a cock. The nurse called my name. She was young and attractive. She led me to the exam room and inquired about my condition. It's the groin area, I said. She took a few notes and soon the doctor entered. He wore the light, neat beard that doctors and attorneys favor. He instructed me to drop my drawers. The nurse turned away. Oh yeah, that's what we call condyloma acuminatum, he said. Genital warts. You usually don't see them on the shaft of the penis, though. You mean an STD? I said. That's right, very common. We can apply cryotherapy to the affected areas. Blisters will form and fall off. You should be fully recovered within 2 or 3 weeks. Multiple treatments are usually needed. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee they won't come back. Which one of these whores had given me warts, I wanted to know. Milena? I agreed to the procedure. I dropped my jeans to my ankles and sat back in the chair. This will hurt, he said. The doctor applied liquid nitrogen to the warts using a small gun. 1, 2, 3, he counted out, adding to the tally each time he cryoblasted a new wart. The nurse made notes in my chart. I tried to discern any emotion on the doctor's face as he methodically destroyed the condyloma acuminatum. 4, 5. I looked over at the nurse and she faithfully remained turned to the counter, charting the destruction of the condyloma acuminatum. 6, 7. That's all of them. 7 warts. 7 fucking dick warts. Condyloma acuminatum. That sounded more dignified. There was a vaccine, the doctor explained, that might help clear the virus. The nurse wrote the name on a sticky note, on a note stuck to an HPV pamphlet. She did not make eye contact as she handed it to me. My crotch burned painfully as I walked with a gait to avoid chafing. I offered the girl at the counter my Visa Platinum Rewards card. Should I reschedule you, she said. Not right now, I said, attempting to look unfazed by the pain and shock of 7 condyloma acuminatum. Did she know about them? The perversity of my life was that I could not form intimate relationships, but strangers knew the most intimate details about me. Like my stone-stricken friend, I too would curse my creator, if I believed in one. Instead, I cursed all of creation. There is something wrong with this world. There is something wrong with me. I have never recovered from the trauma of being created. My uncanniness distresses me. Every time I look in the mirror, I feel a mild revulsion. I do not quite believe that I'm real. My body is not my own. My mind is not my own. My thoughts are not my own, but my pain and suffering are very much mine.
Brian, that was fucking awesome. And yes, it is a chapter I've read. So I'm about halfway through the novel now. I got to the end of book 1 of 2, and I had to set it down for a bit to do other shit. But I'm glad you read this chapter because it has one of my favorite parts that I've read so far, which is the little kidney stone aside. Like when you talk about like how this guy, how his faith had endured all these hardships that you think should crush him, but that like visceral physical pain of the kidney stone like destroyed him, like destroyed everything he believed. it's so good, and it's so perfectly apt for this story and for this novel, which is just this really wonderfully bleak existential character study of this guy who is I don't want to give too much away, but who is so completely devoid of like hope and faith and empathy that it's a perfect psychological portrait. And what isn't really in this chapter, but that I want to mention without spoiling much, is that there's this parallel thread to the novel about like social unraveling and social unrest, and they come together really fantastically. Oh man, in a way where like you see not just like this one guy's depravity and emptiness, but an entire depraved, empty society. It's good shit, Brian, and I'm glad you read some of it here.
Like, yeah, so I dropped a link to my website in the chat. I have a book with Terror House. Stuff on my website. Maybe anyone wants to check it out. I'm on the Twitter, of course. So, yeah, thanks for letting me read, Will.
Yeah, awesome, Brian. Does the book have a release date? Does it have a publisher yet, or is it
I don't have a publisher yet. I've got it out to a few publishers to read. Whether or not they're actually reading it,
that's always a question.
But yeah, it's looking for a home. If anyone knows anyone who might be interested, hit me up.
Awesome. Well, definitely keep us posted, Brian, because I'm excited about this, and I will give you like more feedback once I finish it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks again for taking a look, Will. Always appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, man. So, up next is Keko.
Hi.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Okay, I guess. I mean, I'll be reading, I guess, a lot of stuff, so this will probably be a bit boring. Because I read some of these poems before, a long time ago, though, and so it will also be kind of a spam, I guess. I mean, there are a couple of links. I'll read a dozen poems, but I mean, the first poem, it's a bit longer, but all the other ones should be quite short. I'll read only one from this link. The last one, it's Who Are You and an Epitaph? Satan's courier, but I know her. Lips said it only to get me up, to enchant me. But I was already there in eyes traumatized in velvet. Naming is the meaning to the devil. I can't dance, I sit down. If I were a volunteer, a believer in ladybugs and strawberries, I could have met that bouncy peasant, and the gorgeous grin of her buttocks indicates she's a frequent traveler, and we would share images and pictures, photos outside the club or workshop destinations, paysages, conference halls. I removed all exotic competition from my album so she doesn't feel she's turning into a biscuit. If 3 a.m. is this century's midnight, what's the witching hour? At moments, her grin fades into a smile, and I realize she could be a mother. I will compliment her dog. It's dawn, and as I'm lying on the wall, Satan's courier and the bouncy peasant are dancing in a diluted club, hotly but in an elegant, heroin-chic manner. A waking fusion. Their sweat is glitter, my gaze, a homeless geezer in the park. As my eyes meet the eyes traumatized deeply, my eyelids, my eyelashes issue an apology for not being able to be your dark prince. I throw up gently. So that's the only poem I'll be reading from that link. So now the second link. I think, yeah, there are two poems. The first poem and one very below. The first poem is called Politics Online. I hold my left hand up to the sky and you take a photo. Holding your right hand like that looks like you're doing a no-no salute. You say, I call you an idiot, you call me a Nazi, you get the likes. I get one. From a guy who likes bikes and is into history and knows the president has been abducted by the Kabbalah, a Marxist surrogate has been placed instead. And the second one here is never go barefooted into the jungle. A wound is a deathbed contemplation. A predator is a priest. So if depression is a virtual wound and the internet is the wild, rebel is a predator who chants, repent and die. Second link, third link. So two poems from here. At this moment, I'm thinking about something illegal. There was a time when we could speak freely of raping goats, just to feel the relief of not actually meaning it. And where's art now? Where art thou? Where art thou? Where art thou? Mangy fucking After Effects and creative mobs. If it were possible to hold so many creative peasantry, we would be growing. Yes, we would be growing potatoes on the moon. And the second one is just after this one. It's she, her. She thinks there's no place for manners meaner than hers. She would love to provide me with accommodation, knowing that her pills cannot cure me. Nevertheless, she appreciates my willingness to repent and shows me to her other room. There, in a moment of grace, I witness her ceremony as she puts on the iron butterfly. And oh, I don't know how to say that, penultimate or second to last link is this one, and only the last poem. So it's called Geese in the Fog. To wank is not to hope. To come is to gossip the boss. Everyone fell. Someone left resting, some refused to continue, the rest have stood on their knees. Those who stood up, who helped them? We certainly didn't, nor did anyone help us not to be drowned. We smoked the surplus of life into steam. So now I'd like to read, I mean, it's a bit dumb, but I'd like to read a couple of, I played with some stuff and made a couple of erasure poems. So the first two is, the magazine is an accomplice. So we strongly encourage, uniquely, economically marginalized writers to submit. Though censored in pink does not pay, we promise to care and to shout via social media. And then it's a trans, queer, and queer Vietnamese and poet gave him a prize. And now these three are variations on the theme. A be queer, genderless, mark, identify yourself, wound, winner, prize, follow the line at B. Black queer genderless chap, identify your wound, win the prize online. A black queer genderless miracle with a wound, winner of the online. And the last one a very short one. It's called Dying Comedian. I thought you thought I was funny. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My fate was snow on a bunny. So that's it, yeah. And sorry to all the people I bothered. Thanks.
Gecko. So I'm not gonna talk about the first few poems, the first set, because we've talked about most of them before. They're good. I love them, and I get why you decided to read them tonight, because they're all very relevant to what's going on in the space, right? Excuse me. But I do want to talk about these new poems, the erasure poems, because they are phenomenal. I love the idea of taking, are these all like calls for submissions from various journals? Or are they a mix of like calls for submissions and bios? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a mix of calls for submissions and
I
bios.
Yeah, I love what you've taken out and what you've left behind in these erasure poems, right? Man, first of all, that first title, "The Magazine is an Accomplice," is so like so viciously apt for like the dialogue or the discourse of the moment, right? That's so perfect. But like, oh man, the way that you've chosen. Here's what I think is wonderful about these erasure poems, right? Because on the one hand, so obviously these bios and these calls for submissions um, are designed to like foreground the identity of the submitters, right? But what you've done here through the erasure is that you've highlighted just how fucking monotonously similar these bios are, right? And the way that the like centering of identity often actually like annihilates identity, right? Often like annihilates the things that make these authors unique, and that like the way this has become a kind of rote template for approaching
Yeah,
the submissions
yeah,
process, or the approaching self-marketing, right? I don't know. I
yeah,
think it's very sharp.
yeah. It's like there's a term, but I think it's mainly European, so it's self-orientalization, and let's say we could translate it perhaps into self-tokenization, perhaps. But it's like the one thing I hated growing up in my own culture, because everyone here would try to make art kind of, I don't know, like to suck up to the Western countries. And it's so whenever I see it, I'm kind of allergic to it. So whenever I see those kind of identifiers, yeah, I'm very allergic to it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand why.
And there's the marketing. Sorry, just that.
No, 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 no.
It's like the intrinsic capitalism of the Western world. It's like in it. It's like I mean, like the recent drama, where the guy is kind of quarreling with his ex-wife, but buy my book, like there's a link, buy my book, like, and then there's the, I don't know, the submit to us. It feels like a corporate company, like some kind of like some advocates that just took a bunch of clients from one firm and they moved it to the other, and we'll take the material, we'll take everything. Like,
oh man,
it's very,
idiocracy has
like yeah, it's like a big capitalism, and it's like, I don't know, like poison.
Yeah, I really like the one that's like queer genderless Mark, and the way you use Mark there, the way it's stretched out, like, I mean, that's so good. And then after that has identify yourself, so there's like the triple hit of like marked identities, marketing, a literal mark, a wound you use there. I mean, it's really fucking good.
Yeah, it's great stuff, Gecko. And I like what you say about like the latent capitalism of it all and the way, and I think that's what's like really sad and frustrating to me is the way like identity, the things that should make us distinct and discrete and human become like part of some fucking marketing template, become part of a branding exercise. It really just, I don't know, it strips the art and the humanity out of the whole fucking thing. And it's been a demoralizing week if you don't think that shit is if you don't think that shit is good and healthy for our community, but yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Thanks.
Gabe is up next.
Sweet, thanks. You got, guys, I wanted to call this story 2 Girls, 1 Cop so bad, but I changed it at the last second, but I left it as like an Easter egg in it. You have the link. It's called I'll Quit Tomorrow. It's a little long, so bear with me. Savvy braked hard on Sunset when she saw a rare parking spot right in front of the shortstop bar. Cassie threw her arms onto the dash to brace, like shoving someone to defend herself. Fuck, Savvy, give me a concussion, why don't you? She said, her head inches from the polyvinyl. What does it matter? You're going to have a mean headache tomorrow after tonight, said Savvy, giggling as she parallel parked, jerking the gas and brake with equal flagrance, successfully bashing the parked car behind them. Savvy, that sounded bad. It's just a little love bump, huh? Savvy's eyes lit up. Oh, speaking of which, she reached into her purse, pulled out a tiny baggie of white powder. Want some? Why would I all of a sudden want to do cocaine, Sav? You ask me that every week. Have I ever said yes? Well, maybe you just never know when tonight's the night, she said, dipping her red pinky nail into the blanched dust, lifting it into her nostril. She peered at Cassie, sniffing compulsively, shrugging her shoulders. Why so tense, hon? Listen, I was going to ease into this, but this is exactly the reason why I insisted we go out tonight, said Cassie, billowing a deep, resentful breath. I'm honestly worried about you with that stuff. What? Like, why? I've been doing it forever. Yeah, exactly. But I've known you for like longer than forever, and I want the old Savannah back. So what is this, like an intervention? Cassie thought, well, yeah, but hated the sound of it. Fuck, let's just go inside. Errantly striding ahead, her heels clacking on the gum-spotted sidewalk, Savvy scrambled through her purse for her ID. Cassie trailed behind, in time to make brief eye contact with the guy smoking outside, trim yet barrel-chested in black jeans and tight black t-shirt. She noticed he was staring at them, exiting Savvy's red Prius. What? She mouthed to him, an attempt to break his gaze. Instead, he just smirked, a vain display of confidence, leaning against the wall to refrain from swaying. Cassie ignored him, grabbed her wallet for the door guy making the ID signal to her, his thumb and forefinger. He glanced at their photos, pursed his lips, pointed, "Be safe tonight, ladies." Savvy's eyes wide in tandem with Cassie's annoyed squints. The women's visions were out of sync, adjusting to the oppressive darkness of the bar from the Friday night streetlights outside. To the left, a newly restored black and white checkered floor where wood grain tables and stools once stood, now crowded with flailing bodies finding obscure rhythms and electroclash blasting through the speakers where the room's angles meet. But the girls weren't there to dance. Cassie's hand touched Savvy's back, a gentle lead to the bar on their right. Come, I'll get the first round. Cassie ordered a bullet Coke for Savvy, a pint of Pabst for herself. Let's get a boost so we can have some privacy. Even when they sat down, Savvy was distracted by every little blinking light. Hey, can you look at me? Said Cassie. Savvy, saucer-eyed, made strained effort of intimate contact with her best friend. She held her glass close to her chin, using the straw as an anchor to keep her attention ahead. So, listen, Savvy, I just want to start by saying, okay, sorry, listen, what about, Savvy sighed, what if I quit tomorrow and you just allow me one more night to be myself? I promise I'll quit tomorrow. That's just the thing, though, you're not yourself. But how can you even carry judgment over something you've never even done before? Sav, I don't have to, you're my roommate. You don't get to see yourself. I have to live with it, literally live with drugs under my roof because of you. It's stressful. Okay, fine, what did I just say? I'll quit tomorrow. I want to hear you say it. I want to hear you say, I'm going to quit doing cocaine tomorrow. Before she could say it, the girls feel a presence, a faint shadow failing to thrive in the darkness. Hey, ladies. Oh, it's that fucking guy from outside, whispered Cassie. But Savvy trapped herself just by facing him, followed by, hi, hi, hi. The guy assumed her wide eyes were just for him. Listen, I don't want to get off on the wrong foot with you girls, but I could write you a ticket for those expired tags out there if I wanted to. He giggled coyly into a slur, revealing he was deep in the bag. What, you're a cop? Snapped Cassie. What are you doing at a bar? This actually used to be a cop bar till recently, he said, motioning sloppily to the dance floor. So I could just as well ask what you're doing here, you know? This whole hip new crowd, he made jazz hands, forgetting one held a full pint. It dropped on their table, splashing its contents, drenching both women. Oh my God, growled Cassie, peeling the hair off her face. Savvy, soaked but unfazed, looked more concerned for the drunk. Cassie's mouth dropped. I'll be in the ladies' room washing this fucking shit off. Do you like me to sit down or anything? Asked Savvy. The drunk slid into her side of the booth. I was beginning to think you were never going to ask. He threw his elbow on the table, making a fist to rest his head, turning to face her. Wow, you look excited. Those big eyes. Oh, she said, acting like she had never heard it before. Yeah, wait, what do you want? On? Me? He smiled. Well, I kind of like the sound of that. But really, what kind of drugs are you on right now, miss? If he was a cop, there was zero authority in his voice, only curiosity. I'm just trying to get to know you. There's nothing I could do to you anyway. I'm wasted on the clock. I'm just here to celebrate my last shift. Like last shift as a cop for good? Yeah, his head nodded, his first sign of sincerity. How come? Let's just say I haven't been very good at it. I'm on my last strike and I'm resigning tomorrow before they can fire me. Don't you want to at least try? Miss, I can't even get through my last shift without fucking up. It's really only a matter of time, so I'd rather have time on my side, maybe save a shred of dignity. Sounds rough, said Savvy, her hands fidgeting under the table. His eyes spotted her disconnect, her body moving independent of her wishes. It is what it is. So can I ask you, what might you be on, miss? Savvy, name Savvy. There, now we're getting some. She reached into her purse, emerges her baggie. Where? Here, she said, smirking out the side of her mouth, her thumb and forefinger shaking the baggie like keys to a new car. Alone in the ladies' room, Cassie fixed her eyeliner so it wouldn't look like she was crying, then applied her lipstick, this time a brighter shade of red. She pressed her lips together, perfected the outline, then stared into the mirror longer than necessary, a moment to herself. It bothered her that she was so bothered by what Sav said earlier. How can you carry judgment over something you've never done before? She hated the way it played perfectly into their dynamic. Savvy, always outgoing, able to get any guy she wanted, always coming home the next morning with the best story ever. And Cassie, so preoccupied with self-control that it bled into controlling others around her. She wondered if she could just drop the whole lecture and focus on having a good time instead, be a carefree example of someone who could have the best time ever without the booger sugar. But when Cassie returned to their booth, the best time ever was being had without her. Savvy, passionately lip-locked with their new friend, whose hands were already getting acquainted with her chest. They were in their own world, forgetting they were in public. Savvy, oh my God, she pulled away, giggling. Oops, red-faced, she stared at her makeout partner, then to Cassie. I guess a lot happened while you were in the bathroom, Cass. She burst into laughter. Cassie's eyes darted to the baggie on the table, her ID out and the residue of 2 white lines. Cassie, this is our new friend, Hunter. She uttered his name like a question, blurred into an uncertain answer. Wow, just totally fucking charming, Savvy. Cassie indignantly slid back into her side of the booth. The pleasure's all mine, said Hunter, reaching out his hand to hers, unable to break her dagger eyeing her best friend. Cassie, so Hunter is having kind of a hard time here. I said he could maybe stay at our place tonight. Wait, what? I'll be good, promise, said Hunter, grinning like he already knew he wouldn't. Savvy, can I talk to you a second, like in private? Oh, how many times do you want to talk to me tonight? Just come here, please. Hunter froze, hoping his catch wasn't getting away. Savvy tapped on his shoulder, signaling him to slide off the booth so she could ease out. I'll be right back. Keep the seat warm, yeah? The two walked into the ladies' room. Savvy, can I just ask what the fuck is going on? What are you doing? What am I doing? Making out with a hot guy. The answer's in the question. A fucking police officer, and he can't even stand up straight. He's so drunk. That just seems so gross. Well, he's hot, and maybe he'll get us out of a ticket one day. Yeah, as soon as he gets in your pants, maybe. Well, him and I are both high right now, so I have that hanging over him if things go south. No, wait. Cassie looked up, already annoyed. What? Savvy smirked, deviant. Just think, you and me, 2 girls, 1 cop. Okay, now you are fucking disgusting, said Cassie, her eyes shaking out a smile. They returned to the table where Hunter had 3 sweating margaritas waiting for them. Savvy slid back into her side of the table with the cop. Cassie drank hers in one undulating gulp, standing up, as if to say, well, alrighty then went right into the bar to get another. She knew this night would require extra brain cell annihilation if she was going to relax, if she just accept what was going on in front of her, a drunk cop telling tall tales of occasional glory and utter failure, while he did line after line of coke in public with her best friend, until hours later when Savvy looked at him with dreamy in the eyes. Well, shall we? She wrote down their address for Hunter. Ha, looks like you live just 6 blocks from me. Great, meet us there in 10, said Savvy, holding all her fingers up. Oh, looks like I'm surrendering, Mr. Officer, sir. Cassie rolled her eyes as she pulled her along. The women rushed back to their apartment up Douglas Avenue that overlooked the 101 freeway. Savvy fumbled with her keys at the front gate until Cassie pushed her aside. I got it. They walked up the pathway to their front door. So, what else did he say? Do you know anything about him besides being a total fuck up at his job? Nope, and I plan to keep it that way. I'm going to consider this confidential police business, said Savvy, cackling as she opened the apartment door. Cassie grabbed the bottle of Makers, made 3 drinks in time for the buzzer to ring. A distorted voice crackled through the wires. This is the police, said Hunter, a forced laugh through his teeth, scrambled by sustained static. He entered their apartment like a serpent, drifting with purpose straight to Savvy, unaware or without a care that Cassie was in the room. One hand slithered around her waist while the other grabbed 2 whiskeys off the table while she led him into her room. Cassie sat herself down on the couch to drink her whiskey alone. Of course, she thought bitterly, the forever third wheel to Savvy's conquests. Feeling drowsy, she got over it. Remembering how fucked up this was, she felt better to be Savvy's 6th sense unless anything got out of hand behind that door. Cassie, want to wake up and move to your room, hon? Feeling a gentle nudge on her shoulder, her eyes pried themselves open to Savvy's warm smile, her head tilted in sympathy. Oh, shit, I didn't mean to pass out. She looked at her phone, 3:36 a.m. Is that guy still here? Savvy rolled her eyes. No, I actually just kicked him out 5 minutes ago. Oh my God, Cassie sat up, alert for bad news. What happened? Nothing, that was the problem, she said, throwing her hands up. Savvy started pacing around the living room. Every time we were about to do it, he just paused and start fucking crying. What, like crying? Yeah, crying with tears. Ew, I know, right? What was he saying? He just kept going on about his job and how there's a lot about him I don't know. And I was all like, yeah, of course, I obviously just met you. And then we try again. It just got worse and worse. And I just felt like his shrink or his mom or something. Gross. Wow, you really dipped into that Makers, Cass, she said, giggling as she held up the empty bottle. She put it down, took out her baggie, emptied out a small bit on a sparkly blue Stroke CD. She cut up 2 lines per usual. She patted her jeans down, searched the pockets. Do you have a $1 bill I can use really quick? Oh, wait, never mind, she said, beelining into her bedroom. But Cassie knew she did have an extra $1. And as it dawned on her, she made the decision, or like something else had made up her mind for her. She rolled up the bill, walked to the kitchen table, hovered over one line, no turning back. Oh my God, Cassie? Sorry, I couldn't help it. No, Cassie, look. She looked up at Savvy, standing in the bedroom doorway, jingling a clip of around 20 keys off her index finger. She tried not to laugh, but when Cassie gasped, oh my God, he left his keys, she burst into staccato howls in awe of cosmic irony. I mean, he couldn't have gotten far. The women walked outside the gate to check, lighting cigarettes as they went, sniffing compulsively as they inhaled the jasmine night. They looked left to right. Hunter! But they focused their fleeting attention straight ahead and saw a much bigger thing he had left behind. Oh my God, he drove his cop car here, said Cassie, eyes widening as she turned to Savvy, jingling the keys, giggling. Hunter forgot what side of the sky the moon was supposed to be at 4 a.m., but figured if he could just walk a straight line, he'd reach Sunset Boulevard and remember which way his house was, where he prayed his wife and kids were fast asleep so he could sneak in undetected. He asked fate for mercy. There was no energy in him for another screaming confrontation with his wife. He vowed this would be the last time his final walk of shame home at 4 a.m., drunk and smelling of another woman. He felt different tonight. After embarrassing himself in Savvy's bed, unable to perform, then breaking down in front of her, a stranger, he realized he had emasculated himself on more levels he'd care to admit and never wanted to feel that small again. Over his heavy steps echoing across the uprooted sidewalk, Hunter was able to harness a different kind of stubborn notion to keep on keeping on. He'd return to the station today rather, talk with his chief, tell him he wants to stay on, how this wasn't over yet, how he was a new man, to give him one more chance. Hunter believed what he was telling himself, propelled by his righteous decision to walk home instead of driving the patrol car drunk again for the umpteenth time. When he had walked out of Savvy's apartment, stared at his patrol car, and decided to keep walking, he thought, it ends here, tonight. Oh my God, no, wait, Cassandra, Savvy mock scolded her friend between gasp and guffaw. I was sort of kidding. Cassie had swiped the key ring out of her hands, found the only key with the black head, turned it into the car door. It opened effortlessly. Your chariot awaits, my dear, she said, palm up like a chauffeur. Savvy looked both ways, mouthed agape to a dead silent street where no one would see them. Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this, but okay. She got into the passenger side, stepping onto a folded pile of clothes. Oh shit, his uniform? Oh, perfect, give me the shirt, said Cassie, sliding into the driver's seat. She pulled her hair back and removed her blouse, throwing it into the back seat. She buttoned Hunter's shirt to the top, cinching a slight pressure on her neck, but knowing she was looking the part. It was an exquisite constriction. How do I look? I mean, you look like a totally bad bitch, but what are we doing? We're just going for a joyride. How often do we get this chance? This is once in a lifetime shit. Wow, Cassie's first night doing blow is also her first night stealing a cop car. Ma'am, you can call me officer, her mind reeling. She looked down at his last name emblazoned upside down, the letters like hieroglyphics. Whatever, just call me officer bad bitch. Hunter would have been relieved when he saw his house in the distance if he hadn't realized something was very wrong when he tapped on the side of his belt, then his back pocket. A sense of unique doom made his brain swell. Fuck, my fucking keys, fuck. He considered his mandatory walk of shame in reverse, imagining ringing Savvy's gate again, waking up the girl he embarrassed himself with, only to twist the knife in his dignity. But he remembered exactly where he left them, right on her nightstand, so his walk would become a sprint to get it all over with. Oh my God, is this? Savvy gasped. Oh my God, it's his gun. When she hunched over to fix her shoe strap, she realized she and Cassie were strapped. The black Glock pistol was almost invisible in the dark until she picked it up off the floor, mouth wide open as she showed Cassie. Wow, okay, give me that, said Cassie, grabbing it out of her hand. I'm the one in uniform. She nestled it between her legs, under the blue denim skirt she was still wearing. Oh my God, Cass. Oh, what, am I making you nervous? Now you know how it feels to live with you, she laughed, snapped. Some odd sub-emotion Savvy couldn't interpret. Just kidding. Okay, I'm chill. I'm super chill, she continued, tonguing her tonsils to swallow her bitter drips. Where should we go? Can we maybe just take this all back to where we found it? Let's just go home. Cassie was barely listening, too distracted by all the dashboard gadgetry as she turned left on Sunset. Ha! Oh my God, there's these switches here that just says man 1 and man 2. Should we see just how man we are? She turned it to man 2, turning on the wailing siren as Savvy screamed in sour discordance. Cassie chuckle howled, flooring the gas so it would look natural to onlookers. Her right hand scrambled to turn it off. With those whizzing 5 blocks, there was a pause second that would haunt the girls for the rest of their lives, where they caught each other's eye. We are so fucked, yet an undercurrent of comfort that no matter what, they'd always have each other's back. Okay, I'm taking us home right now, promise, said Cassie, ever protective. Last thing she wanted to do was make her best friend panic, and this clearly wasn't funny anymore. Hunter took a shortcut through a vacant lot around the back of the building. He stood in front of the gate, took a deep breath, and buzzed Cassie's apartment. Nothing. Again, nothing. He knew he'd hate himself for it, but he pushed his thumb into the button again and held it there for a sustained 30 seconds anyway. Nothing. He circled around the building, saw her bedroom window was still open. The gate surrounding the building was black curlicue wrought iron with perfect circles he began stepping into, hoisting himself up and over the blunt spearheads on the top. Looking up to her window, a taunting 3 feet over his head, he called her name and whispered, not to wake the neighbors. escalating to an aggressive hiss by his fifth muffled shout, until he no longer considered the size of his volume. It was distance he'd need to shrink. And there was no more room to care whether Cassie would mind him coming through her window. Just this once, never again. It ends here tonight. He walked back 10 feet to get a running start. Charging, he jumped, kicking the wall as both hands grabbed her windowsill, clasping for life. One simple pull-up that would have been easy if he hadn't spent the whole night tenderizing his muscles. Back to silence as they cruised along Sunset. Cassie turned right onto Douglas, shifting the weight of her hips, reminding her thighs that they were touching an LAPD-issued Glock pistol. Keeping one hand on the wheel, she caressed the weapon. Savvy's comment ignited in her head again. How can you carry judgment over something you've never done before, this time trapping itself there, ricocheting, repeating an overlap through a fraying synapse in her cocaine-clouded brain? Until this very moment, she thought she hated guns. Now, she suddenly felt powerful, authoritative, in complete control. Smacking her lips, tonguing her gums as she rubbed the gun's sleek paneling below her. She allowed her hand to clasp the handle, gave her finger permission to rest in the trigger guard, just in case this was the last time she'd get the chance. Oh my God, is someone breaking into my bedroom window? Savvy tugged on Cassie's shoulder, pointing through the windshield. Cassie, laser focused on the intruder, slammed on the brakes, turned off the headlights. Wait, Cassie, no! She was already out of the car, gun pulled and tactically gaining ground. Whoever this was, she couldn't wait to give him a warning shot, scared the living shit out of him. She had just had to get close enough and out of earshot of Savvy's blabbering pleads. She was doing this for her. Hunter finally lifted himself up enough to grab onto the nightstand through the sill, just long enough to confirm his keys weren't there. Perhaps they dropped off in his struggle to grab its far corner. But before he could pull himself into a room, a loud bang startled him from his grip. As he fell, another crack would escalate into an emptying round into the back of his head. Hunter, a time card personified, stuck in his last punch.
Gabe, this is a fantastic story. You know what? I love well, first of all, as like everyone has said in the chat already, I love the fucking dialogue in this piece. It feels so natural. It feels so true to like how these characters would actually talk. Like none of it sounds, there isn't a line here that sounds like it was written rather than spoken, if you understand what I'm saying there. But on top of that, I love the perfect nasty logic of this story, where you can tell from minute one, you're like, this is going to end really fucking badly. But you can see each small choice these characters make that leads to the catastrophe at the end, right? And even though you know, as the reader, this is going to end really fucking bad, every one of those small choices makes perfect logical sense. There's a terrible, like, intricate, perfect, subtle logic to all of this, which is what you really... I hate to make like the crass comparison to like a Coen Brothers movie or something, but it's that same kind of tightness to the logic of the story where it doesn't feel like simply slapstick, or it doesn't feel like just an unfolding of bad luck, or just characters acting irrationally and bringing harm on themselves. You know, you can see exactly why they make each move they make, and it's like fucking clockwork. It's beautiful, man. It's a great story.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sorry it was long, but yeah, appreciate everyone listening.
No, it's fantastic.
I really like the performance on that one too, Gabe. That was really well done.
It's hard with catty girls. It's so hard to not get in that.
No, you nailed it though. I think
like
because
irresistible.
I think you nailed it. The Valley Girls speak in the dialogue and shit. You nailed it.
So could you tell it took place in the early 2000s? I was trying to give like, because that bar in LA was a cop bar until the early 2000s. So I was trying to give.
Oh, okay. I honestly didn't really catch it. Didn't catch me.
Maybe I'll just if anyone
I should say that you should definitely keep the name Two Girls One Cop.
I was patting myself on the back so hard when I thought of that, and I just thought like, it would be better. It would be better as like an Easter egg in dialogue. I think that it didn't sound like a title to me. I think it was too funny.
I think if you want to really underscore the fact that this takes place in the early 2000s, you have to name it that.
Yeah.
because I
But
think
the-
that
but
would
right-
locate it in that moment, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
but no, I'll quit tomorrow. It has like multiple.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Like I thought that was just a better, like a way more poetic title than.
You know, Gabe, I was while you were reading, I was thinking about that, and I was on the fence because on the one hand, like the two girls, one cop thing, like that's hilarious, right? And it does place it in that 2000s kind of milieu, excuse me. But you're right that I'll quit tomorrow. Like it applies to Savvy, it applies to Hunter, and it also on some level applies to like how catastrophically this is about to end, right?
It's the last night. It's the last night of all their lives. So
yeah,
they're
exactly
all-
like
they're
that.
all-
You're being sent some mortality.
They're all literally quitting to they're quitting the concept of tomorrow.
Mm.
Two girls, one cop. I fought so long to not call that Kobe story Kobe, and I had all kinds of cute titles, and even Derek discouraged me against it. But if you have to fight against it, I don't know. Also, as far as the time period, it was placed through. I think there was a Strokes CD reference, right?
Yeah, and that they were playing Electroclash.
Yeah, I mean,
and
for
it was
me,
like the
that,
beginning of massive gentrification and all that stuff. I was just trying to.
Oh yeah, the
Being
Strokes
part of
thing. Now that
that-
you say that,
being part of like actually being at places like that, but not there, but in Toronto and stuff. For me, it felt very much like people who were engaged in such behavior at such time. Yeah, it does read that way. So if you were concerned about that, no, absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. So Jesse's up next.
Okay, hi. I have a link here. This is from my Substack.
I
This
just put
is-
it in the chat for you,
Yeah.
Jesse. So
Lines composed while listening to Pharoah Sanders, 9/25, September 25th. Pharoah Sanders, Floating Points, LSO, or London Symphony Orchestra, Promises, Movement 7. I want to write today, but it's not easy to re-enter the membrane. Not a cloud in the sky. September, cloudlessness. Approach every unknown artist as you would approach something as a child. My bed is a landscape of books, envelopes, papers, no human partner. Stresses and anxieties are banished. Find the next thought that's clean of all that anxiety dust. How will I talk about my poetry book in the coming months? Adam Johnson called it a concourse of naturalism shot through with mystical inquiry. I like that. I like that I don't fully understand what naturalism means. He also said that I had an a priori rejection of the crowd mind. I'll take that too. But enough about me, or at least the me that is supposed to occupy the promotional pulpit. What's the word? Podium. Does it matter when the sun is shining and the air is crisp and cool? What threnody matters? I got that from Mark Lehner. I used to, when I lived in Elbridge, go get high on marijuana and go for hikes on Science Hill and listen on headphones to Cocteau Twins, 4 Calendar Cafe, and read Mark Lehner's My Cousin, My Gastroenterologist, and other books of his. What threnody matters? It was an example of the clown revealing himself to be a scholar, like Phantom Gooch Colton did last night at Misery Loves Company with his pinball story, with the vulgarity and silliness, but then the mobile gently spins and you see an impressive chunk of artifice and cerebration. The contrast, repulsion, attraction, intellectual objects concealed in a circular coat rack of dirty clothes at the Salvation Army. I missed a day of psych meds yesterday. What's one day? What kind of slippage could occur in one day of missed meds? 23 minutes, 45 seconds into Floating Points, Pharoah Sanders Promises. What is the group? What is the recording? You're so new. You don't like you don't know the terms. You can hear every pulsating spit bubble coming off his reed, staticky, the clicking of the sax hinges, light electronics shimmering in the background, twittering jungle ecology of electronic sound, scintillant surfaces. I want to start an underground newspaper with my friends in the 1960s or 1980s or any time before or outside the internet. I want to be investigated by the FBI for less leftist radicalism and have our files burgled in the night by Nixonian thugs, and then evidence recovered in a daring raid in Media, Pennsylvania when all of COINTELPRO was unmasked. Who would be the weak link in the organization that the FBI would play off each other? COINTELPRO in a Twitter age, feds in art spaces. They sowed fissions in student groups, Black liberation groups, got them fighting each other. Thought about writing a novel or a long poem called Truck Bombs for Greta, Greta being Greta Thunberg, and it would be about the shift from peaceful eco-activism to violent eco-terrorism. The Swedish teenager getting for her 18th birthday a present of a set of truck bombs with which to assassinate fossil fuel CEOs and try to divert climate change. It wouldn't work. It would herald more repression a la Bin Laden's gambit. Plus, all those CEOs are in survivalist bunkers by now, surrounded by private armies and are untouchable. I'm not a proponent for violence, and I'm not calling for violence per se. I'm a pacifist and an observer, but I'm frankly shocked that there isn't an Aldo Moro every week behind this climate change shit. People will go from defacing the Mona Lisa to doing armed direct actions at some point. Not me, though. I couldn't organize a one-car funeral procession. I've thought about anarchism. It seems like going to Mars in terms of its viability, but is politics about the goal, the destination, or about the conditions you create along the path, the home you raise your doomed kids in, the messages you send, the environment? Live, love, laugh, a placard calling for revolution instead. I think about how I should have raised my daughter to deal with apocalypse, nightmare scenarios, societal collapse, mass migrations of people trying to find scarce water in North America, my daughter hunting squirrels and rabbits, avoiding gangs of Cormac McCarthy rapists in the woven times. Anti-authoritarianism, long word. Political cartoons from an underground newspaper would be difficult to create. Fantasy of engagement, smashing the system. What would you build in its place? Please look at Excuse Me Mag number 6, Visiting Hours, my cartoon hinting at anarchist trans strategy. There's a Statue of Liberty, of course, but also a much bigger statue of authority, invisible, that has been under construction in America for over centuries. It's half built, just the legs and waist have been constructed so far. It's in progress, but is not of progress. Progressives want to take control and keep building, build a just society paradoxically on top of the evil lower half. But anarchists want to dynamite it to the ground, truck bombs for Greta, and start building society up again from the ground up in a more just way. Authoritarian legs cannot support a torso of freedom and progress. The Statue of Authority is invisible, located everywhere, and much taller than Lady Liberty. In my cartoon, the sick woman Janet is made sick by apprehensions of the unjust authoritarianism lurking almost unseen behind American culture, politics, society. And then there's just two photographs of cartoons. It's basically this woman in a mental hospital is seeing legs dancing in the skyline, and it's like a hallucination, but it's a kind of apprehension of this statue of authority. I'll just move past that. You wear the perfume of the allegorist well, I see, said the reactionary interrogator. I reply, and you wear the perfume of the propagandist. The smell when they collide is nauseating. Dueling perfumes of propaganda is something ambient and unavoidable. It's in the air. Derek Main's glimpse of his next novel, which he provided at Misrilo's company about the wartime correspondent lounging at a debauched paradise resort, was radical. How many intersections with the field of political pussy will we have? I'm excited to read where that book of his goes, a Pynchon-esque crossbreeds of politics, war, and sex. Time to get political? Colin G says to fuck the 1960s, go back to Harry Crosby days. What would radical publishing look like in 2022? I'm sure it's out there. Eugene V. Debs watching Netflix documentaries. Sacco and Vanzetti Zoomers. PM Press sells anarchist books. I bought an anarcho-syndicalist t-shirt from them that was so scratchy and uncomfortable. Hair shirt, punishing you for being a conformist consumerist pig. The Spanish Civil War anarchists did not have credit cards nor PayPal. The pen is mightier than the sword. The Substack post is mightier than the truck bomb. Freedom of speech. Free speech absolutism in the Twitter zone. I'm sure it's all being tallied, our words, our tweets are beads on an abacus of total digital surveillance, clicking from right to left. I want to have coffee with the FBI or NSA analyst who's been assigned to read my words. I'm harmless, and yet I want to dismantle the Statue of Authority and build something else, some new statue. Statues are just ruins waiting around to be cut out of the ancient jungle thousands of years from now. The Statue of Liberty will emerge from the foliage with a bullet-pocked Angkor Wat face, a missing Venus de Milo arms holding no torch, no Book of Freedom. I urge my friends to, if not join me making underground newspapers, get political. Find nodes of radicalism in your writing, your creativity. We're making the secret newspaper in a scattered, decentralized digital battle zone where drones drop glitter. Thank you.
I really like this, and I'm gonna beat William because I saw his hand going. His autism claw, because I do the same thing because I have autism. But I'm reading the Ferlinghetti biography by Neil H. Tarkovsky now, and the scenes kind of just about the politicism of the time and how they address populism. Basically, it was, I think right now a lot of the most political stuff gets is dealing with kind of free speech versus like kind of woke, whatever. But it was interesting because there was a file on Ferlinghetti. That's what maybe, that's what I thought of when you were, kind of referring to like having an FBI file on yourself or whatever. And it made me think, like, if only, I wish the FBI, I wish they could, it's too easy now. I think there's probably, honestly, based on Canadian surveillance and American, like, I'm sure there are, but I'm sure we're just little folders among, like, everybody now has a file. It's not special to have a file anymore, you know what I mean? But I too yearn for the time when it could have been special to be, I know that wasn't the point of your piece, but it was reading the Ferlinghetti thing and thinking about art and even writing. It really seemed like nobody read poetry in the 60s, and yet it was still enough of a thing to really draw the ire of significant powers that be. And I wonder, I don't think there's an analog today. That's just a random thought. And sorry,
it was
William,
sort of like it was just spinning off of, like, I wish I could have been around when there were underground newspapers. But what would an underground newspaper look like today? It wouldn't be an underground newspaper because we're not perhaps in that mode anymore or something.
Well, I don't know if you remember the mimeograph, I think it's mimeograph revolution of the time. And I wondered why there wasn't one today. And I realized, because we have printers. We could just use a printer, like a 1992 HP printer can probably do what a mimeograph could do. But I wanted to start my own mimeograph revolution for a minute there.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in real quick. Sorry.
Oh.
I just want to jump in real quick and say I was listening to the track. I was listening to the track that you have listed there, and it goes perfectly with the length and everything. It lines up perfectly. I found one on YouTube, but it actually lines up really well with the piece and the bluesy kind of depressed saxophone, especially when you get into the Greta Thunberg part. It really flares up and hits it. But also, I just want to say that underground newspapers are not dead. They are actually moved to itch.io, where they're sold during contests for contests and game jams for like $3. That's the underground newspaper.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, Jesse, that was awesome. That was really amazing.
So I'm going to talk about Jesse's piece, but first, you know what this reminded me of? Remember that week that, like, I had laryngitis or whatever, and I let Josh be the guest host? I'll have to do. I should, since I was sick this week, I should have just done that again. Josh is obviously prepared for hosting duties tonight, but we will do that again. I think one time in the future, I'm going to make Josh guest host again. Anyway, Jesse, I want to talk about your shit because this is fucking phenomenal. This blog post, because it transcends being a blog post without ceasing to be a blog post. It transcends political writing without ceasing to be political writing. Like, this is like such an amazing, like, kaleidoscopic collection of like the most fucking vivid political images and ideas. And once again, in a way that transcends simply being like polemical or didactic political writing. Instead, it's legitimate, honest to goodness political art. And I love the way that it begins fixed in a very specific moment in time. Like, I love how it begins with you listening to the track, right? And it's foregrounded as, this is this day, I'm listening to this music. And then all of the insights and thoughts and all of the political stuff flows out of that moment. And the fact that you anchor that moment in time provides a real, like, solidness, to the piece as a whole, because it's so, and it provides a real context too, because so often political writing is purely like abstract, right? It's like, wouldn't it be great if the world were this way? But the fact that you show us where that process of political musing begins, like it begins in your house, at your desk. And it begins also like with a physical description of your space, like the bed that's so full and yet so empty, right? And so you get a sense of exactly where you, as Jesse, the human being, is before it escapes outward into this process of like political fantasy and political musing. And that, I think, really makes it fucking click as a work of art. I know I'm rambling, Jesse, but it's a really good fucking piece.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for listening. It's weird, I'm writing these things on my Substack and it's not really like being published for real, but it's like just my own writing. And yeah, it's fun to kind of start and just kind of go somewhere. It's not edited, it's just sort of rambling, but anyway, thank you.
I don't know, Jesse, I have a real soft spot for your less edited pieces, your less controlled pieces, the pieces where you really let your, which isn't to say there's anything wrong with your edited and controlled pieces, they're very good too, right? But the pieces where you really let yourself go and you really unwind like the great like knotted ball of your thoughts are always like absolutely fucking brilliant. And I think you have some like self-consciousness about those pieces that I don't think you should have. I mean, and I think that you especially shouldn't have in this space where you've got a lot of people who are engaging in like more experimental and less restrained and less classical forms of writing, right? And I don't know, I think the like psychedelic shit that you do, like in every sense of the term, is fucking incredible, like without a doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Josh, I'm not gonna let the autism claw thing go.
My girlfriend pointed out about me. That's why I'm weaponizing it now.
That's a really good phrase, the autism claw.
Oh
reminds you of like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. I put it in the chat, but yeah, I mean, it's very like.
It's good because it's true. Where is Keith? Where the fuck is Keith?
I let him in earlier tonight, so maybe he had.
I think Keith is here. No, Keith is here.
Oh, he's here. Oh, what's this? Why are people getting us worried about Keith when he's right fucking here? Sorry, Keith.
Yeah, I'm not down with this Keith erasure, for the record.
So anyway, next up was going to be David, but I think we went on too long and he's in Scotland or something. So he's probably very late because I think he just dropped. I think that's true, right? David is not with us anymore.
Oh yeah, I think David said earlier that he had to go. He had to go to sleep or something.
Gotcha. Rudy, don't let me forget to send him a DM after and see if he wants to sign up for next week. Because I feel a little bad about us like going so long and him getting locked out. But anyway,
you feel bad, yet you enable these Family Guy.
hey, you better buckle up because Gianluca's coming up second to last here, and we had a conversation.
One time, I take an L one time. I love your Supreme, by the way, man. I like to collect it myself. It's very good. One time, I take an L, and I never hear the end of it.
Gianluca, don't let him get to you. Don't let him get to you. Josh, let me say something. Before we started tonight, like Gianluca sent me a message saying that he had written a whole play and wondering if he could read it. And he showed it to me. It was 20 pages long. And you know what I did just for you, Josh? Just for you. I said, Gianluca, we have a lot of people reading tonight. Could we maybe split this across a couple of Misery Loves Company, and you can read the first act tonight, the second act later. And Gianluca, because he cares so much about you, Josh, because he's so sensitive to your needs, he said, sure, man, that's fine.
Well, it's about his because it's better for him because it will honestly build anticipation. You know, that's why
it's true.
And I'll be reading the travelogue thing, by the way. That's still happening. But anyways,
you're reading that tonight?
No, but next week one, and then it's moving along.
Okay.
But yes,
good.
It's better for him. I'm just trying to look up for him.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. You're helping me take a W here.
That's right.
Anyway, thank you guys. Rudy's up next.
Hi. So I'm going to read some more Pale Manipulator music, which is my child soldier fan fiction, I guess, or some kind of, I guess it's more like song fic because all of these are based on songs on a Spotify playlist that I have. And that's kind of a plot point in that the child soldiers are cursed by a necromancer who owns this Spotify playlist. And they broke into her Spotify and now they're cursed. So cool. So the first one I'm going to read it's called The Closer the Better It Gets. And this is based on the Girl in Red song, inspired by the song Two Queens in a King-Size Bed. December 25th, the day on our hunt for a Christmas fowl, we have found instead two Tweety birds. Their cage is a bungalow in the Great and Powerful district where they are shivering for the December cold. And for effect, GNP district still has grid and Wi-Fi. And because it is Christmas, Josh, the commander, says you can shower here if you want. Though it is said by Misdemeanor Elliott in her song that she don't want no 1 minute man, the militia in general, and Josh in particular, does want that. Because if you are taking any longer to shower, they are sure to cut off the water. When I shower, I wash only my hands. While we are commandeering 11 minutes of steam and soap bubbles in the bird's bathroom, Josh is questioning them about their tweets. You are two very noisy birdos, is what I am hearing of his words as he takes their information and whatever else he feels like. It is all on the box, screams one of them between skin-on-skin noises. The cloud is what they are talking about. I make a friendly wager to Pascal, some corporal with nothing to prove, that they will exist in the clouds soon enough, and I am only a little shocked when I see Josh and a political officer leading them out. Shocked in the automatic stomach-feeling way, because what I see is electric, building static in various parts of me. They are in birthday suits, and unless one shares a date with the creator, it is not their special day. We take them to another cage on the outskirts of town. This one is a hole cut roughly in red dirt. Anne and Peter, who spent this morning digging, object passionately to using this hole. It's too big for two dykes. They're just skinny things. Just look at them. We have dug this here for two men. Yeah, this is a manhole. Manhole. Stop, Josh says. The political officer is giving Anne, the primary complainant here, a look that says, "Are you stupid?" but doesn't actually say it until he does. Then it's both the look and him saying it. Does it fucking matter which hole you use? Josh asks, exhausted. Anne says something smart, dumb, that gets her backhanded. Her "it only matters before creator" joke falls flat on the ground like her. The birds seem scared, but out here in this wilderness, they are not tweeting about it. Overhead, missiles, stars, bang. Two smaller, closer bangs. The next one I'm going to read is called, if I can find it here. And they all look just the same. This is based on or inspired by the Malvina Reynolds song Little Boxes. Let's see. June 17th. Today in the Great and Powerful District, there are very many developments. We have been doing much stacking and digging and filling. Mostly we're stacking and filling because the polite nature of GNP denizens, beyond docility, as Josh the commander says, encourage them, with our artillery's help, to carve out spaces for storing departed loved ones in between interstate medians and front yards and green carpet fields where rich people play with their balls. The big one, who puts expired people back into the life with sorcery in the same way a coach will be agitating on the sideline saying, "Number 11, you are fresh enough to smash some more heads," has told us to box up all the siege succumbed, exit wound abundant, black, torn and bone showing people we find and put them into the ground until they are skeletons. We follow our orders. Lots of boxes or cardboard or plywood because we used all the pines for our own. Kojak, Bran, Layla, Gorsh, Bennett, Bobby, Dawn. The pine and embalming will make their skeletoning slow, and the last of these skeletons will be great generals. The training center is full of life, unlike the rest of this community, which is suffering a bit of a downturn. Everyone who has more years than I have toes and fingers has been followed by bullets. Because youth, we are the future. The center was once a big pool, where a big animal called the K through 12 drank. K through 12 is a predator who eats children and makes paper pellets called ticky-tacky. I have never seen a K through 12, but we are finding its feces everywhere in the training center. Nasty creature. Excuse me. Another one I'm going to read here, and I think this will be the last one. It's the last one on the page. It's called "I Hear Your Footsteps." And this one is actually based on Armor for Sleep, Basement Ghost Singing, which came onto my feed again. It's just an emo song from like early 2005-ish. And it came onto my feed because David put it in there when he was talking about Armor for Sleep, which is a fucking awesome emo band, and you should listen to it if you're into the emo. Okay, so July 9th. I am dead now, restless from improper burial, and my place on the attention deficit spectrum. The place where my ghost is wound up is a basement, a short distance from my body, which has been covered by the owners of this villa with plaster and pieces of wet sheetrock. It was an incursion into the outskirts of the great and powerful district, Gates Ward, that brought me to slumbering. Orders said that we were to enter this villa, which looks like something that might be remodeled by Bob, the Bob with a similar sounding V name. We were supposed to bivouac here until other units could make the march to GNP, massing to bring its final artillery guns into submission. But it is said that laid plans are mice, comfortably devouring food in the cupboard until the day they are scattered by a die-off or a crafty exterminator. And surely we have licked the green poisonous bait with this operation. Our campsite was defended by a handful of partisans who we chased away with bullets. They reformed in desperation like so many swords, then set up on our position while we were doing a sleepover in the living room, tents and video games and everything. In a day, they had retaken their home as if the narrative of combat was a Christmas time story about a family outwitting the evil bank, and our summary executions were the tearjerker climax. My paper mache grave is next to Anne's. She liked doing arts, so I'm happy for her. It is nice, since I will admit that I was wanting her company in life, maybe not always, but I have not seen her here. It is my understanding from things the witch doctor has said in my time in online video games that the afterlife is instanced. This space was dynamically created for me and up to 3 other besties, which I guess are myself, I, and the creator, who must have a place in everything. The partisans move constantly. I hear them on their radios wielding grid against our advancing troops. The guns on the far hill are shrieking always. Mortars are daily falling out of the sky like wayward cosmic bodies, and every friendly tank destroyed is met with a world star. Their feet are ragged claws scuttling across the floors of seas that won't shut the fuck up, like the war voyeur in that movie who is constantly angering the bald mafia colonel. They seem unaware of me. I have tried to go upstairs and the door is locked. I have tried passing through the door, but cannot cross its threshold. It is very dark down here. Every day the steady gunfire outside is closer, which means we must be winning. GNP folks are technocrats and house hiders who would sooner drone fag our forces than engage them in the open field. Every day in this basement, I engage in infinite warfare of the spiritual variety, prestige level 30, talking to myself, and I am me, and occasionally creator. I also engage in psyops, singing praetor-nationalistic hymns to the enemy. You'll fire your musket, but I'll run you through. Every day, I wish my mummifying body would become Undertaker. Sit up, walk through those Bilko doors, go to the garden, and evict deceased partisans from the better post-life real estate, just as our cavalry temporarily ousted them from the warmth of this villa. I just want a little rest. I just want the red earth that is woven with rocks and enemy shells as armor for sleep. I want prime dirt for me and Anne. We want skeletonization so that we can answer the big one's post-life call of duty in an acceptable tone, not with, just a minute, Mom. And that's it.
Man, these are excellent as usual. I think you've read the first one before, so I'm not really going to talk about the first one much.
Yeah, oh yeah. The only new one is the last one.
The last one's a new. Okay, I thought. Oh yeah, I think I do have some memory of the second one. I do still love, just to talk about the second one for a second, the fucking K through 12 being reimagined as this monster that eats children is so perfect. Like, yeah, well, I'm not going to go off about public education or anything, but yeah, no, that's just such a beautiful image. And in the third one, sorry, 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. And in the third one, and all of these more broadly, what I really love here is how, like, through your world building and through like your creative use of details and shit, you really get at the essence of like the duality of like being a child soldier, right? Like the child half and the soldier half. And a lot of child soldier media tries to do that, but it's so grounded to our world and our reality that it often ends up being really like sappy and emotionally manipulative and not and not really effective at like getting at the heart of like that duality. But these pieces really fucking do. Oh man, the last one in particular, like the instanced afterlife is such a heartbreaking and funny like idea. Big like the idea that afterlife and people like romanticize the idea of like an afterlife crafted uniquely for you or whatever, but the idea of an instanced afterlife where it's designed for like some low, like some minor level of multiplayer, but it's just you in there, right? Man, that's brutal.
Yeah.
The moment though where the slumber party gets interrupted by the enemy combatants and they just, oh my gosh, that moment is fucking fantastic because it catches you so entirely off guard. Like you're really in the like child half of the child soldier dynamic, and then the other half literally kicks the door down, right? And goes in and summarily executes these kids. And oh my God, I don't know. It's just you keep that tension between those two seemingly polar opposite things so high throughout these pieces, and especially throughout the last piece in a way that I think is pretty effective.
Rudy, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Jesse.
What is DMP?
Oh, it's GMP. He mentions the Great and Powerful District. So I guess the way I thought of it is like basically where the rich or upper middle class people live. They're invading. They've gotten to the point where they're invading like the suburbs or like, you know, the place there. You know, so that's like it's just an economic thing, basically. Like the child soldier thing, I guess, you know, is in real life, I guess, limited to, you know, certain, you know, almost effectively one or two areas geographically, regions. But now it's, you know, with this fantastical element, you know, it's kind of spread to us, you know, so it's like they're killing people here and that kind of stuff. So that's just, yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, but one thing I wanted to mention, well, William brought up something that was basically, you know, the duality of the child soldier, the duality of man. That just makes me think of duality of man from Full Metal Jacket. But no, like I read Romeo Dallaire. He's a general who served with the United Nations in Rwanda, I think, and he has a book. I think it's called "They Fight Like Soldiers, They Die Like Children." And he has a narrative in it that's basically a fantasy narrative in the beginning to open the book, and this does basically what you were talking about, William, where it's kind of like a sappy type of, you know, it feels very strained. And this is a guy who was there and he saw this shit, you know. I mean, and he you know, he was, I mean, that's probably why, because, you know, he's trying to deal with it through that. A lot of child soldier narratives that I found, like there's the one from I forget the guy's name, but he was a child soldier and he fought in some campaigns with the Lord's Resistance Army and stuff like that. But like a lot of it is a vehicle for real child soldiers or real combatants to deal with the idea, like shooting at kids, or if their kids shooting, you know, doing whatever, shooting their family or whatever. And there's also No Beasts of No Nation, and that one I think does it more successfully, does what I was trying to do basically more successfully, and in a way that I like more. But I'm trying to get in between like that realism and the, you know, the actual, you know, hoo-ha or whatever, you know, the playfulness, get in between the realness and the playfulness. What I'm trying to do basically. So yeah,
man, and I think you succeed at that. Very much so. I mean, the sense of playfulness, particularly in these pieces, is very there and very vivid, but constantly complicated by like the terrible like graphic reality of this situation. And also even like on the fantasy level, the fact that like the future these kids have to look forward to is that after death they're going to be buried, allowed to rot, and then their skeletons are going to be dug back up, reanimated, and enlisted back in the war. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry I took so long, but
no, man, awesome, thank you, man. So, Michael's up next.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna read something that I wrote recently. Let me just paste it here. I might turn this into a longer thing. I kind of can't decide, but I figured I'd read it. It's called Love Taps. The game started at the big intersection in South Montford, the one where James Rainville crashed drunk and flames melted half his body 3 months before. We called it Love Taps, and the gist was that you try and touch your bumper against the car in front of you without causing any visible damage, or at least get close enough to spook the other driver. The kind of game played exclusively by idiot teenagers not responsible for car leases or insurance premiums. I drove a Swamp Green shitbox my sister already blew halfway to hell, so it was the perfect vehicle for Love Taps. The first time we played, G sat beside me smoking the last of our bunkweed out of the same apple he'd been roasting for 3 days while we waited at the stop sign. P's straw blonde hair sprouted in the window of the truck ahead of us. The stoplight swayed in the wind. Zach Sweeney, you coward, G said. Tap that bastard's bumper. Give it a little one, a love tap. I scoffed, and as I often did, quickly shoved deep the lingering anxiety of my father and his father, now mine, and nudged the accelerator. The shipbox scampered half a foot forward. You're running out of time, G said. Then he shouted, just fucking do it. I scowled, took the apple from G, and tossed it out of his window. I hated the smell of the bunkweed, and I hated him for wasting our money on it. Then I hit the gas, and the shitbox lurched again, and we banged against P's truck. His head twisted, full of foul fury. Then the light turned green, and the school bus horn blasted us to attention. When we reached the baseball field parking lot where we usually hung out, because there was never anywhere good to take our cars that didn't require money, P was ready to beat me to hell until G calmed him down and explained we were just playing Love Taps, this awesome game he'd heard about from his brother, something he did in college, something he did when personal responsibility still seemed like a distant threat, a mark of your invincibility. P's scowl bloomed into a grin, and that night we chased our tails up and down Old Montford Street. G got F and his girlfriend C in on it too. C was born for it because she was a hot holy maniac who blasted into the oncoming lane in her father's dented minivan and hummed a $15 cell phone across your hood. Pirate dreams, pirate tactics. Those nights we built towering bonfires in the old construction yard and studied the cops as they tried to uproot us. My mind crackled and I never slept before dawn. C and I fucked atop the brick and mortar bones of the ruined middle school on the hottest night of the year that summer, the one night when it was just the two of us, the night F's appendix tore itself apart. 2 weeks later, G's parents sold their house and he was gone too, right before the housing bubble burst. G told me leaving town helped him prepare for college, but I knew he hadn't applied anywhere. I saw C and P and F less and less. I called the number C gave me, but every time a confused woman answered and asked if my name was Tom. I quit the part-time job my father got me and pushed my shitbox harder each night, up to 85 miles an hour on Old Montford Road. It had to be a record, I shouted. It just had to be. I ripped past car after car and leaped across the hard yellow lines in the road like I was trying to taste them. With each pass, I'd stop myself from tearing the wheel rightward, bringing us together. One last love tap for the last driver alive. I wanted the difference between the machine and me to dissolve at the place where stop signs demanded my silence, far from the highway crossing that divides the town like a crucifix. Me boiled down to mere acceleration, handbrake broken, the lights on the dashboard too bright to be understood.
This is awesome, Michael. This is awesome. So you said you're thinking about you're thinking about adding to this. You're thinking about maybe turning it into a longer short story, or
yeah, kind of, or like sort of like writing like another version that's like longer and kind of just more like the scenes will be broken out rather than sort of like flying through them.
So I don't think you should. I think you should keep it this length, and let me tell you why. This story does something really awesome with the way it's structured and the way time functions in the story, where the first couple of paragraphs, maybe even the first half of the story, covers about, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of real time, right? And then it speeds up, and suddenly you have the last few paragraphs cover months, and then by the end you're back in the car accelerating again, right? And the way that the structure of the story mimics both, number one, the game being described of Love Taps, where you idle at the intersection and then you blast it forward, and then there's a collision, and the way it mimics the way that moment between the end of adolescence and the beginning of adulthood works, where it seems like time is moving so slow, and then you're out in the world and it's like a million fucking things happen in that much space, I think is fucking incredible. I think that the story at its current length, and especially at its current structure, is perfect. And I'd be worried that lengthening it out, especially if you add to that last third or so of the story, might break like the way the structure mimics the game and life. Does that make sense?
That does. Yeah, no, that's something to chew on. I appreciate that. This is a real game that my friends and I used to play, though. When I wrote it, I had to call like an old friend I hadn't talked to in a while, and I was like, "Hey, what was that game where you used to like chase each other around and hit each other with our cars?" He was like, "Oh, it's Love Taps." Like he instantly thought of it. Yeah, it was a really, really stupid game that we used to play. But you know, that was the mid 2000s.
That's such a good name for it, Love Taps. Like I said this in the chat, but it reminds me of that. There's this commercial for, it's either Allstate or Progressive. It's the one that the guy who was president on 24, the black guy, a black president there. Well, I don't know what the guy's name is, but he's some actor. And he used to do these Progressive commercials, and he talk about a swoop and squat or something like that, where people go to the one guy comes around the front of the car and the other goes on the side, or they just reminded me of that for some reason. But just the way you describe it, the intricacies of this, like I guess you'd call it a pervasive game because it's played in real life, I guess, of like hitting each other's cars. It's like kind of like mini chicken, I guess. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it wasn't a safe thing we did. Luckily, nobody did.
That's good. I mean, that's always good.
To explain a couple dents in the car to my parents. They'd be like, "What happened?" I went in the grocery store. I came out and there was a dent. But no, thanks for the thoughts. I really appreciate that, and thanks for letting me read.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for reading. So, Gianluca's up next. And Derek, I think you might have wanted a warning, so you're up after Gianluca. And one last thing, I know a couple of new people have come in. We're no more, please do not send me any more messages saying you'd like to read tonight. We are capped out now. If I told you that you will get the chance to read, you're on the list, don't worry. But anyone who might be thinking about, I just saw Sam enter, so I've got to do this. Anyone who might be thinking about sending me a message saying you'd like to read a 40-page short story that you just wrote 15 minutes ago, I'm sorry, we're going to be running late tonight. But definitely, if you have something you would like to read, shoot us a DM and we'll put you on the list for next week. Anyway, that said,
Sam Pink, we'd allow Sam Pink though, if he ever came here.
I don't think Sam Pink gets preferential treatment.
Hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? So, I got, I was rather sad because I got kicked out of a volunteering thing because I did push-ups at an inappropriate time. And I bought a crispy chicken sandwich, 3 DVDs and a t-shirt. And then I came home and I wrote this wall of text. And in a sense, it's kind of like, it's not just maybe that it's a play that makes it kind of like an oddball in my oeuvre. I'm very pretentious, saying that, but still, it's also just, I think maybe kind of probably the most lighthearted thing I've done. It's very comedic, but maybe not, I don't know. But it's called The Transition of the Holy Order, and this is Act 1. Okay, all right, everybody. The scene is an executive office within the Los Angeles TikTok building. The office has a Rothko behind the white curved minimalist chair of the floor manager. It is untitled, black and gray. The glass panels look out onto a stage that is blank, apart from a plastic palm tree. The chair for visitors to the office is more akin to a stool that would accompany a company bar. It is egg white with a bag that slopes upward to a central but low point, barely providing any lumbar support. On the desk of the floor manager is a laptop, a piece of paper with a pen perfectly parallel to the paper's right edge, a lamp, and a stack of 3 books. Those 3 books are Richard Yates by Tao Lin, Volume 2 of the manga Love Hina by Ken Akamatsu, and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. In devising this set, directors should consider the setting. This is the kind of office that has vending machines, motivational slogans next to chairs, exercise balls, and such. One could imagine employees making TikToks of their own in this place, detailing the lifestyle of the typical TikTok employee. While this office doesn't have the same bells and whistles, there are none of the aforementioned vending machines, for example, it still isn't hermetically sealed off from its surroundings. There are aesthetic forces from outside operating on it. It exists coherently alongside the rest of the floor. Female employee steps in. She's wearing a graphic t-shirt with a cartoon character on it. Not something like Regular Show or Steven Universe. Think more character from Animal Crossing video games. Hello. Hey, what's up? Sit in the chair. Female employee clambers onto stool. It rotates, but she steadies herself. It's more like a stool than an office chair. Floor manager gives a forced smile. I mean, you put it here. It's not my fault that you want people to feel so awkward. Pause. I saw how you looked at me. Floor manager picks up the pen and begins to fiddle with it, twirling it around in his fingers. It's just not a funny joke is all. I could tell it was a joke and I was trying to be polite, but I failed and I'm sorry for that. I didn't mean to be impolite. It's just not a funny joke because I know it's more like a stool. And I made it that way because this whole building is about making people feel like they're having fun even when they're doing not fun things. This office is part of a wider building. It wouldn't make sense aesthetically if you were to just walk in and be met with this cold, austere atmosphere, right? Now, would it be maybe be more honest? I guess, perhaps, but would that make it good? Like, I am different from you. I am different from the average employee, and this office does reflect that. And the attempts to make it continuous with you guys' space is silly, right? But I did my best. I made coming to see me like going to the bar. I did my best. I don't drink. Neither do I, but others do. The others. Who do you think you're fooling with this, though? Even the most alcoholic members of the team wouldn't be like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm at the bar, right? It seems pointless. Like, it seems pointless. I don't know what to tell you. Is the Rothko behind me pointless? It makes me happy. The stool makes me feel like I'm doing my job. I like my office. You're still fiddling with your pen. Ah, yes, I am. Floor manager puts the pen down on the piece of paper at a diagonal angle that is irregular, not forming a straight line between two corners of the paper. The movement should be unforced but quick and embarrassed. Why are you here? I'd like Mondays off. Ah, pause. Is there any reason for this? I'd like to get some more sleep and walk my dog around town. I've always hated dogs. Now that's pointless. A little prisoner in your home, yapping, shitting. Now that's pointless. I hate dog walkers too, because when a big dog brushes past your leg and injures you, they never apologize. And they are so annoying with their smiles. What have you got to be so happy about? Lugging around a fucking shit machine, anthropomorphizing it. You know, I'd kill for some human company, you know, not a fucking substitute. What about your wife? Divorced, signed the paper 2 months ago, used it to score a week of absence. It was in a company email addressed to everyone. I was busy doing my job. How could I forget social media manager? Social media manager at a social media company. Tell me, how's the Twitter account going? How's the Twitter account going? Oh, okay. It's hard to get people invested in an account about a service, right? They'd rather just use the service. So you would make your job as pointless. It's a job I need. Of course, I suppose mine is pointless too. Yeah, I mean, no one would notice or care if I were gone every Monday. My job is inessential. So what's one Monday? Your job may not be essential, but there are 1,000 people on my ass convinced that it is. So no, I don't give you permission to take Monday off. Can you talk to them and say what? I don't know. We're adjusting hours for social media employees. I don't think I have that authority. Sorry. Sure you do. You make all kinds of decisions. What's one that actually benefits people? What would happen to me though? What would happen to me if you just took off every Monday to lead your happy, clappy fucking life with your fucking boyfriend in your house with a dog, everything like that? I, don't have the fucking option to just not work on Mondays. Because if I don't, I get fucking fired. So what gives you the idea that you can suddenly skip work? You're essential, right? Important? How about you lie? What? If you want it so bad, fucking lie. Tell them your brother died of leukemia, that you have the flu, that you broke your leg in a terrible accident. I'll co-sign it. I'll earn you more than fucking Mondays. I'll earn you weeks, maybe even months off. How's about that? I don't want to lie. I want to work fewer days. I'll accept the pay cut. That's not the problem. You know that's not the problem. Please, you can check Twitter here. You can do whatever you damn like here. What, is your dog gonna die if he isn't taking a walkies more? Get your head out of your ass. It's like you want us to live our whole lives here, our whole lives spent here in this fake world full of fake things, so you can all work us, so you can work all of us extra, me and the people who really work. So why can't someone like me, who you admit isn't important, leave? Because it doesn't work that way. You're right, you cracked it. We want you to spend longer hours, so we give you long days and pack the place full of M&M machines and arcade cabinets, so you can take a break and then return to making TikTok great for its users. Obviously, no shit. We're a company. I did my job. I'm so sorry. Well, your job just sucks. Welcome to the real world. Sometimes your job just sucks, but you do it anyway. Not all of us can be social media managers. Not all of us can be performance artists like you, huh? I saw what you did in the supermarket. There's a silence. The female employee has her eyes widen in shock. Female employee begins to cry. Oh my God. Yeah, surprise, surprise. What you do has an effect on others. I didn't mention it. Fuck you. You're gonna lord this over me forever. Hardly. What would I blackmail you to do exactly? Tweet harder? Face it, you're insignificant. Fuck you. It's just a body like anyone else's. Context matters. What, so you think I'm a slut? Is that it? You apparently did, according to your monologue. That's not fair. That's not the point I was making. What point were you making? Was it the kind of point children needed to see? That's not your issue with it, though, is it? I suppose I just don't get it. Like if I were to do the same thing, men don't get raped at the same rates as women do. You know that. If I were to do the same thing, I'd be a sex offender. Or there's this guy in Russia, right? This guy who pinned his balls to the road so he could talk about Putin's crimes. You can be brave and fucking empowered. My options are sex offender or political. I'm on the registry. What? I'm on the registry. For real? Why wouldn't that be? Softened. Were you aware of what would happen? Yeah, I suppose subconsciously. I didn't care. Didn't even enter my mind. Still doesn't. I won't tell anyone. I promise you that. That isn't much of a promise. You just pointed that out. Smiles. Huh. Yeah. So no Monday? Floor manager shakes his head. No Monday off, certainly. Bugger. It was a big mess with those watermelons. Big mess, and children saw. I saw. And you were saying that you consented to everything and thus couldn't be raped or whatever? That's funny. That's funny. Like when you're strong against everything, that's when you're truly weak. To be a real strong human, you need the ring of Gyges. But most people need to settle for little caves in which they escape the censure of an ugly and judgmental world. Justice is the advantage of the stronger. Justice. Did I say Justin? Jesus Christ. Frick. Justice is a weapon used against me and you and everyone we know. It is also deeply necessary. Justice is a principle. It is something to be fought for. It is something that exists outside all of us, outside our petty concerns. Justice exists in the hand that won't be buried, the primal emotion. Look, I admire you. You took it on the chin. You sacrificed for your principles, whatever they were. But you're just wrong. If the world was just, less people would be on TikTok's Twitter account. And so less people would theoretically know about TikTok on Twitter. Does that sound just to our investors? People who go on the TikTok Twitter are just business losers hoping to, did I say suck ups to us? Suck up. Holy shit, suck up. People who go on the TikTok Twitter are just business losers hoping to suck up to us. They also serve an important marketing purpose. That loser Twitter account, followed by loser people, shows that we are worth being sucked up to. That's how it is. What do you care about being just to people who don't care about you? I don't need your goddamn help to steal from my employers. I do it perfectly fine without help of some spoiled girl and her stupid fucking dog and shitty fucking performance art. If I was there with the melons, and this slash sort of implies that she's sort of talking over him, but she's doing it quietly at a lower volume, as indicated by the quietly direction, stage direction. So
if I was there with the melons, people would be like, ew, gross. And starting from melons, after melons, quietly, the melons wouldn't make sense if you used them. Sorry? Louder. The melons wouldn't make sense if you used them. Make sense? Performance art is supposed to make sense now? Could have fucking fooled me. Fuck you. Oh, shut up. Shut up. I've had enough of you. You and the world always wanting to fucking disrupt the machine for yourselves. That's what you're all taught. But still, it sucks. What happened to community, huh? What happened to fucking taking your lumps and accepting that Fido won't get a walk today, huh? Plenty of people found me gross. Everyone would have found me disgusting. Don't project your shit onto me. You're richer than me. People would probably just say, oh, he had the mental breakdown. I can't get you Mondays off in fucking perpetuity. I can't. I motherfucking can't, and you know that. And I will continue to do my fucking job and find new and ingenious ways to keep you here. And Fido will be sniffing some young lady's snatch because let's face it, it's always a young lady on the receiving end of some unruly dog's tongue. And I will be the one dealing with it, not you, not the one who motivated change. I want to walk him outside, bangs the desk after each word. Tough fucking shit. It'd be easy for someone like you. You vastly overestimate my fucking power. You're a petty, small-minded little man. Oh, and you're so intellectual, huh? Making performances no one fucking likes. Oh, boo-hoo, boo-fucking-hoo, wah. Female employee picks up Richard Yates and throws it out of the bounds of the office set onto the blank stage. You're a little bitch. Emphasis on little. Scrote. Fuckhead. Floor manager goes outside the set, picks up the book, and puts it back on the stack. I'm jealous of you, jealous of your cushy job, your boyfriend, your whole performance art thing, being able to ask me for being able to ask me for an indefinite amount of Mondays off, chuckles. It's not funny, continues unperturbed. Being a woman, maybe, who knows? Maybe I'm jealous of that. Maybe, I know what it's like to be alienated from your labor. Trust me, I know. Being a woman sucks, trust me. I think I get what you're talking about, but being alone sucks too. Stop with this silly Mondays shit, all right? I'm not going to fire you. I'm not. I'll put you down as having an episode. I'm not having an episode. You're trying to erode our work-life balance. You're not part of a machine. You're a man, au contraire. Female employee gets off the stool chair. You're done? I'll just not come in on Mondays. Smiles. You will. You're a machine too. You can get naked too. You'll be like that Coney guy. Coney flopped. Think about that next time you expose yourself in the supermarket. Floor manager throws pen across room. Should I pick that up? You'll be in, and you'll do things as usual, and you'll grow old, as will your boyfriend and dog, and we'll own you, and I'll be owned, and the silly Monday rebellion will be over. Piece of advice, if you're going to start a revolution, go big or go home. End capitalism, end the revolution. Send us back to the Stone Age. Selfish little revolutions, you have to be craftier. You have to obey certain limits. The technique matches the scale. I've read about more revolutions than you. Quality over quantity. There haven't been that many successful ones. The world is an engine that keeps on chugging. You'll be in. Wrong. Little by little, the world will change for the better. People will work because they need to. So there'll be a caste system. The people condemned to the necessary jobs and the lucky bastards. No. Everyone will have a job, but they'll work the hours necessary. They'll have lives not so much encroached on by others. Noble dream, won't happen, you'll be in. Female employee silently leaves. Silence. Should have thought of a bigger, oh my God, I cannot speak. Should have thought of a better comeback. Floor manager picks up the copy of Richard Yates. He looks intently at the cover. Email notification sound goes off. Floor manager puts down his copy of Richard Yates neatly at the top of the stack. The edges of the book are perfectly in line with the others. If the book has been damaged in the throwing, he doesn't try to fix it. Lights out. Magic hands 1, 2, and 3 set about deconstructing the set until nothing remains except floor manager on his chair. Floor manager gets off his chair and walks forward into the curtains. Magic hands 1, takes the chair, and then puts it down to deliver a monologue. What bugs me is that people assume that the real will always be superior to the fake. If a dog or a baby was on here, you wouldn't care in the same way. You'd only care in that you'd be thinking, oh, I hope nothing happens to that dog or baby. So in a way, I'm more real than any dog or baby. Just because something was made up doesn't make it inauthentic. People fake it way more, trying not to be fake. And it's an admirable impulse, really. I'm not anti-honesty. What is art but an elaborate form of honesty, psychologically speaking anyway? You can't help but be honest. Even when you're lying, there will always be that telltale failure of communication that makes the whole thing worthwhile. So you might as well tell the truth. What I'm against is when you think I'm somehow lying to you, just because I might be paid for doing this. Yes, I'm magic. I'm a magic pair of hands. I'm cloaked head to toe in pure darkness. That's just who I am. I'm paid to do a lot of things. That's everyone. Everyone lies at their job way more than me, and yet I'm singled out. How is that fair, I ask you? No, it's not fair at all. Like I'm dead because I'm not a person doing what I want. Most people don't do what they want. Most people don't even want to. They want to do what's right. I'm not doing what I want to do, but doing something I want in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, would be faker than anything. I'm here to give you a good time. And that's why I entered this business. People forget that. That somehow because I'm paid, I have no idealism. Hello? I'm in fucking theater. If I wanted money, I could have gone into film or bought stocks or some shit. And if you accuse me of ego, well, you're right there looking at me, judging me. You have no right to accuse anyone of ego, ladies and gentlemen. I am but your humble servant, Magic Hands 1. I'm fake, certainly faker than you. But if you think I'm stale and inert, maybe that says something about how dead you are. Only corpses and children need all of the real, all at once to understand. Sometimes I think that if someone made a golem with their own two hands, they'd not say, wow, the Jews were right. No, they'd say, I've made something fake. Well, maybe a golem is fake, but he's alive, more alive than some of you. Magic Hands Magic Hands 1 bows and takes the chair behind the curtain, completing the deconstruction of floor manager's office. End of Act 1. Anyway, all right.
Man, you're putting David Mamet to shame here, buddy. I mentioned Mamet because the first part of this especially gave me powerful Glengarry Glen Ross vibes, right? Except like as a deconstruction of the modern workplace environment. And I think this is just as sharp, you know, in the way that it deconstructs and then literally deconstructs at the end, right? Like the illusion of the modern workplace environment. I love like all your little set dressing notes here because they communicate vividly exactly what kind of a world this is, right? Exactly what kind of corporate workplace is. And it communicates so much about the characters. I love the note about the female employee's t-shirt that it should be basically like not this kind of cartoon character, but like an Animal Crossing t-shirt, because then you know exactly who she is very quickly. You know exactly who she is with just that one detail. And then the dialogue is so sharp, it's funny, and it's like hyper real, right? It occupies exactly the place you want theatrical dialogue to occupy, where it's not just like two people talking organically, but where it's a step beyond that to like getting at the essence of the confrontation between them. And then the way that you literally take it all apart at the end and have like completely annihilate even the illusion of the theater itself by having basically, you know, what would be like an invisible, literally invisible member of the cast come up and do a monologue. I think that's very effective and very surprising too. Like caught me off guard reading it, and would I think really catch the audience off guard in a clever and subversive way. So yeah, it's good shit, man. Yeah, thank you. So, Derek, have you successfully escaped the kids? Are you in a secure location?
I think so. It kind of depends, like, how is my volume okay?
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay, cool. Because I don't think I'm going to get, like, above this register. So
no, this is fine. Good.
Oh, this is fine. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, this has been awesome tonight. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to read from Characters, my book. It's kind of a cool, like, on Tuesday, we're going to the state fair. It's coming here in North Carolina. And I took this picture last year, so a year ago today. My wife and kids are up in one of those ski lifts over the fair, you know, that they do. And I'm too scared, you know, to take them, so to be on them, because I just want to jump off. And so, I stay on the ground, but I took that picture up, of them. And there's something about that for my whole life, the way that I kind of watch things, but without really participating in them. So I'm just going to read 3 quick paragraphs today, and decided too late, but this is the end of this paragraph. I don't share a lot of writing before it's done, but I sent it to a friend of mine at the time, and she, a friend of mine, I sent it to her at the time that I was working on it, and she had really liked it, and I have been missing her lately, and so I wanted to read a little bit of this. So it's just a couple paragraphs. Also, the other thing too is that this should give any sort of sense about how the work flows, because as you'll see, it's it doesn't. This is from page 47 of characters. Barths knew with the death of the author that there existed a separation of art and artist, but that argument never seemed to take root in culture. Literary criticism still looked outside the text more often than not. Society obsessed over the celebrity in lieu of the work. I don't mean anything. My God, how could I? How embarrassing to be meant. You make enough money to pay for porn, or you make porn. There's no middle class anymore. There never was. Lie. You lie. Middle classes thrive after wars. And I'm not talking about piddling campaigns in the desert or the jungle to extract resources. I'm talking about motherfucking wars. Fate of the world. Pretty Iowa farm boys plus gnarly gap-toothed Louisiana marshmen fighting side by side on behalf of America, for their families, for their country, for their gods. I'm talking about the kind of war that Hemingway never got into and always wanted, but worse. It was happening, and he was driving ambulances carrying the real heroes. And for a pitiful man like that, it must have eaten him up. It must have tore through his psyche enough 2 days before America's birthday, only sacred and true holiday left on earth, to wake up in Ketchum, Idaho, and kill the last buffalo separated from the herd. That kind of war is a boon to the middle class. I drove Highway 17 today, Route 17, whichever you prefer. I passed the gas station with the worms and coffee sign, which you turned into a rap song or something, but it was just an interesting sign we'd laughed at years ago. Guess your parents still live there, still have the schooner and the marina. We almost died out there. It wasn't the first time. The first time we'd left NC School of the Arts around 3 or 4 a.m. We needed to get back home to Greensboro. You drove, I slept. Then you slept, and we hit the barrier, spun around several times. Caleb had just died in a car wreck 3 weeks prior. We didn't have a scratch. Steve, if I ran into you, would we hug? Could we? What are the rules these days? Who even knows? Perhaps we better not. Perhaps the plague saves us from these small, significant decisions. If you are here, stay inside. I don't want to run into you. You were an asshole in Atlantic City. I was an asshole in Atlantic City. The Russian stripper let me lick her asshole in Atlantic City. What the fuck were you expecting to find in Atlantic City but assholes? I felt myself as a body thrown to the wind, hurtling unsteady towards my own date with stardust. I watched myself from outside myself, worrying what I'd do next. The Russian stuck her finger in my asshole and traced counterclockwise pleasure circles, whimpering, "Let it go. Explode," she ordered. "You're holding it all in and it hurts. Explode," she demanded. I looked up. My view was thong, half glass of gin, strobe lights. My stomach turned. The sweet release she was paid to pry from me remained elusive, and I exploded bile and Johnny Rockets cheeseburgers fresh from the strip all over her 6-inch clear heels and sturdy calves, muttering, "I'm sorry," running away into the neon night, howling, "I don't know why I'm like this," as you slept uncomfortably and pouty-faced on the Chinatown Express bus back to New York. I don't miss anything.
Derek, let me ask you something real quick. Did you choose this section as like a secret tease for wartime author?
No.
No, it's just pure. it's just pure coincidence that you happen to read one of the paragraphs about a wartime author. Yeah, okay. But Derek, this is great. I actually, as you know, I've been reading characters, and as you know, I had to put it down for a couple of weeks while I was fucking beating my head against the wall trying to finish a piece of writing we just published. But I'm glad you read this, because this I love this section, and I don't think you've read it at Misery Loves Company before. And you talk about, oh well, there's like no flow or no rhythm or no logic to this, but there's actually, like, the more I read this, the more distinct a sense of the flow and logic of the book I get. And what it's a traumatized kind of logic. Reading this book is like a real internal glimpse to like a truly traumatized mind. And what I mean by that,
thank you. No, thank you.
Sorry, Derek. I just but no, what I mean is, like, there are these loops that I'm familiar with that you get caught in, where you skip from one intrusive thought, one unpleasant memory to another, where like, and your mind hangs on them just long enough for you to soak in how unpleasant that moment was, and to get a real sense of it replays, right? And then your brain finds some sick internal logic to play the next terrible memory that's like, just you can feel just how your brain grasped out, or like reached out and grabbed that next thing, that next like awful bit of personal history. And all of the moments in here are so like emotionally rich that you really do feel it. It's like occupying a mind that functions under that like post-traumatic logic, right? It's fucking awesome, man. It fucking rocks. And I will finish it. I swear to God, I will finish it.
Don't throw it away. Burn it. Burn the hard drives.
Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna die here. Thank you, Derek. Thanks, man. Sorry, was somebody unmuted? I thought someone was unmuted and might want to comment, but maybe not.
No, I wasn't. It actually wasn't me. And now I forget what I was going to say, so never mind. But there was something, and it was incisive, and yeah.
Amazing, Josh. Amazing. All right. Thank you, Derek. Grapes is up next.
Hey, okay. Don't mind the outside noise. I'm at a park right now.
Wait, did the animal die when it was under your watch and it ate something? You were living a similar life. Is that what happened? What happened to the animal?
It turns out that dog hid the lighter from me under the AstroTurf in the very corner of the backyard, and it did not need surgery, thankfully.
Good.
Yeah, that was a traumatic moment for me. I definitely experienced some immediate PTSD.
Well, I remember that, and so yeah, well, that's happy ending.
Yeah, no, the dogs right now are behaving themselves. But let me continue.
Also, I will make you beautiful. I will make you beautiful.
Oh.
I mean, I don't have to make you beautiful. You are, but it's going to be in the thing. Don't worry, because you had
Sweetheart, I'm just asking for that. I think it would be a great outcome.
No, the only person I'm making ugly is Garth and 6 Minute McSweeney. That's it.
I'm not going to say they're ugly forces, but you do you.
Josh, I feel like you have like a social sixth sense for like, you know that I need to use the bathroom right now, and that I am looking at three people left on the docket. I'm not going to pause this fucking thing that's gone on for so long. And you're like, You can see, you can feel me squirming, Josh. I know you can. And you're like, how many questions can I ask Grape before she gets started?
The quickest thing, all I'll say and tag that is I empathize, William, which is hard for an autist, but because my Coke dealer, who I haven't spoken to, I haven't done blow in like 14 months. I was feeling down today and I still didn't do blow. But sure enough, when I'm feeling shitty, he texts me. I haven't heard from this dude in literally the same period, but I get the text. They know, and maybe I do know. Maybe this is some sort of, yes. Anyways, but Grapes.
Josh, I'm proud of you. Hang in there. But I have to pee, and we're going to get through these next three readings, man, okay? All right, Michelle.
Okay, I'm just reading two things. One is a short poem, and the other is a short prose piece. So here we go. I'm going to do a little sound check just to make sure you hear me. And here we go. Perfectly. Okay, let's see. Sorry, let me figure out my phone for a second. Oh God, phone, don't do this to me right now. Sorry, technical difficulties, but I'm figuring it out.
Are you fucking with me?
I'm not fucking with you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought this was a bit.
Here's my first poem. And the next one is a prose piece. This one is untitled. You can hear me, right?
Clearly.
Okay. So also, lollipop, sugar pop, you were my stardust. Lollipop, sugar pop, you were in the ground first. Lollipop, sugar pop, you made me a grilled cheese. Lollipop, sugar pop, I'll never say please. All right, that's my poem. And then I have a prose piece. It's a little longer, but not much. The title is He Had Feel My Pain tattooed across his forehead. And this is the piece. In his hospital shirt and black pants, he turned to me and said, "Go into bathroom and take a piss. I'll go in there after you and drink it with a straw." It was hour 14 of being held at the hospital, and here we were, waiting for my injection in the ass so I could get discharged. I'd find out his name, John. His smile was brilliant. He had a full set of teeth, shining teeth, unlike my boyfriend. Anyway, I thought the first words I heard him say were quite memorable. Walking up to the nurse's window, he said, "I'm going to take a shit and smear it on the wall." To which the nurses said, "We'll have to medicate him too." Pacing, he said in his raspiest voice, "I just wanted to smoke a cigarette." Thank you.
Michelle, those were great. I did not at the moment need the piss monologue. But no,
sorry.
Oh my God, no, that last piece, the prose piece, is phenomenal because it really like captures the like irrational horror of like institutionalization, right? And it does it in a way that's vivid and upsetting and really just wonderfully disconcerting. But no, it is fucking fantastic piece, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a nonfiction piece, just so everyone knows.
Okay, noted. All right, thank you, Michelle. Troy, you're up next.
Thank you.
I can't clap normally. I tried to clap and it sounded like a slow clap, but it was actually an excited clap for one of my favorite writers. And he knows I actually mean this because, like Derek is holding up, I own all of those as well. So there's some big fans here.
Oh, shit. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. I love you guys. This is awesome. So like, I've been working on a novel, but I'm not going to read any of that because I can't read my own writing, and it's all in a notebook. But I'm gonna read this. I don't think you guys have heard this kind of shit from me. I was working on a novel like 5 years ago, kind of in response to Ottessa Moshfegh's Migloo. And I thought it'd be funny to write a novel about a person that killed somebody and could not get anybody to take them seriously that they killed somebody. So like the reverse of her novel. But like, yeah, so I can't remember. I think it was published in like 2018 by Blake Butler took it for the fanzine. So I'm just going to read that real quick. Gangly ass boy I was, devoid of fat, always on the verge of disease, crying into the night as an infant and into adolescence, causing my father to take early leave of mother and with the help of large stones drive his body to the ocean's bottom where it could only take on sea brine and flounder. I find Abelard's poetics garbling the words coming out of my mouth. I was speaking to myself in the mirror again, going over what it is I will tell the detective of murders, the official magistrate, if I can convince them to hear me out. By the time I had come of age, there was nothing left in me and my father. I could hardly recall him, but I found in Abelard all the things I always imagined I would admire in my father. Perhaps that is why I killed him. I have gone through all the possible reasons. They all seem plausible. There are far too many to name. It mostly was the feeling that made me do it, as if something forced my hand. I had no choice. And now, with the paleness of this death reflected inside of me, refracting, I still have yet to understand my motive, or even if I had one at all. All that's left is death and water. That make any sense to you? Shaking my head, clearing my thoughts, I start again. I killed him. Look, his ledger. There's blood all over it, his blood. Stabbed him in the heart with the butcher knife. Look, this coat, it isn't mine. I stole it from the man who is now enjoying the fruits of my murder. Just believe me, I killed him. Now go on. Go ahead and cut off my head. Hang me, poison me, drag me before a firing squad, whatever it is you do. Just let me take the punishment for what I did. Not perfect. That's all you can hope for. Nothing. Abelard told me once about a man with whom he had relations back in his sailing days. The guy was a young, swarthy fellow with blonde hair and blue eyes, a face like a child, and a hollowed chest on the left side. The way it happened was they had bovine on the boat that they slaughtered and ate while at sea. A month out, the cattle got sick, tuberculosis, so the sailors had to break the legs of the animals and heave them into the ocean. The young sailor got sick, couldn't breathe. He nearly died, and when they got back to port, he was immediately taken to a hospital where a surgeon sawed out a few ribs and removed his left lung. He was in the hospital for almost a year. While there, he met Abelard, who at the time was tending to the sick. After hours at the hospital, they would kiss and caress each other tenderly. So much so the young man decided he wanted to leave the hospital for good with help from Abelard and continue their frolicking the flesh in the confines of a heated room shared where no nurse could ever interrupt them again. Abelard said he used to put his head in the hollow of the young man's chest and would almost immediately fall asleep. The young man weakened over time, got sicker and sicker. When Abelard suggested he take him back to the hospital, the young man refused. That night, Abelard smothered the young man with a pillow while he slept. The night had been romantic, smelled of shit and smoke from the stove. Abelard claimed it was possibly the happiest day of his life. Me, I don't know what it is I feel. I just need you to believe me. I stabbed him. He died immediately. A crashing of glass, the candles and lamps out of flame, a voice like a whisper coming at me from all angles. Then a light at first dim, then coming on brighter and brighter in the mirror. I crouch, hide away, cover my face, plug my ears, wait. I count aloud to 700, open my eyes, and everything is as it was. Candles and lamps alight, glass intact, abounding silences. A frightened me in the mirror, on the floor like a coward, the sudden recognition that I will kill it. That light, shall I ever see it again? Listen, I say, I killed him, you fuckers. If you don't believe me, I'll kill you too. I laugh, snot like icicles from cathedral spires, face all red as blood, lungs all kinked up, and the laughter hot against my cheeks. He did not die immediately. He heaved and then settled back as I took him to the ground. Then the last bit of air in his lungs left him, a hollowed whoosh, like wind through a bramble. He closed his eyes, appeared to be sleeping. That is when I panicked and ripped the shirt from my body, found a stone to sink it, and stole the drunkard's coat from under his head as he slept. Everything before that had been calm, easygoing, sedate, and that even while the knife went in, the gristle churning. I guess I am more like my mother than I care to admit. Like me, she was always very cloistered in her dyings. In that way, too, I am just like my father. My father never existed save warnings of remembrance from my mother. And in this way, too, I am like my mother, like my father, like my mother, a pool for unwanted kittens. Matters of life and death matter very little to me, actually. They are the same thing, after all. I get this all going a loop in my mind as I approach the station. The shadows of morning thick upon the streets, lights of dagger poking through clouds, clustered, head full of worms, dirt in my mouth, ready to speak. I walk in just as before, demanding the detective of murders and the official magistrate. I have a penknife, not the same as was left in a cold heart, but a smaller than average one, only good for slashing, should the flesh try to harm me in my wanting. The same two fellows, the official magistrate and the detective of murders, come rushing in, demanding I be removed from the building. So I pull out the little knife and start slashing at the air in front of them, occasionally stabbing myself in the cheeks for some reason, as though I need more holes in my face in order to finally breathe. Suddenly, I feel my body being pulled down from behind me. Everything goes black. I hear whisperings, then silence, only a slow smell of lamps burning. I awake in a cold cell, a sheet over me. Finally, I think, I start fashioning the sheet into a rope, and when it is sufficiently tied to the bars above me, I tie myself tightly into reason. I awake to total darkness, no smell from the lamps, not a sound, not ever of even stillness in the night. I start up from the cot and place myself into the corner of the room. There are sharp little beams of moon coming through the window, just enough light to see that there are matches by the bars, a little tray of bread and cheese, a tankard of water, a candle, and a single cigarette rolled by uncaring fingertips. I light the cigarette, watch my shadow dance across the wall, flickering, and realize that I am not alive, was never alive, cannot be alive, won't be alive, never, and never will be. Consequently, I'll never live to tell this tale. This is fine. This nothing of me, of all of us. I feel nothing. Neither do I wish for a single day of flesh or flash to bring me into this world. Were it to happen, there would be nothing to worry about. Still, that is not my wish. I wish for nothing, nothing to fear, nothing. I am nothing, nothing at all, nothing more than your shadow. I go back to sleep. I say, don't worry. The world's a shadow. Shadows can't hurt you, not much. Next morning, the tenders are unroping my neck of bed sheet and covering me with cloth, trying to warm me. Thing about it is the smell of homicide and suicide mingling smells something like rotten oysters found hidden deep in the knickers of a dead cabin boy. Delicious. I can almost taste them, taste it all. And out of nowhere, I start to feel the pounding in my head subside into slow waves of panic. Things aren't familiar here. The room is altered nearly completely into a room I've never been. Must be a hospital they've taken me to. I asked one of the orderly looking fellows if he could please bring me a piece of paper and pencil. He nods, his ugly mug turns and trots away, walking like something that's been stuffed into his ass. He returns and puts the paper down before me, gives me a book for a hard surface and a nub of green pencil for scrawl. He says, "Here you are," and smiles and continues. "I admire what you've done." I say, "Thank you, but what exactly is it you think I've done?" He says nothing, just winks, puts his hand on my shoulder and walks away. I begin my scrawl about the paper, but damn, I forgot to ask. "Sir," I say, "where am I? Where exactly am I?" The orderly looking fellow comes back smiling. "You don't know? Know what? You've thrice died. What is this place? It's the place you come to if and when you die thrice. A college, a department of science, to be precise." I don't say anything, and the man does not utter another word, rather turns and goes about his rounds. So I set about my scrawling. I see it as night again, perpetual night, thus the candles burning along with some artificial lights. The moon outside the window hung like a dead bird's wing, unflapping. Thus I prepared to begin my own ledger. Gilles de Rais was a tattoo across Abelard's chest, a face filled with murder and hate, which brought him joy, having killed in the thousands, men, women, and children alike. He had on hundreds of occasions sprayed their blood across his bare organ and instructed their corpses into sexual angles they had long suppressed. He would drain them, fuck them, chew their lips with sharpened teeth, spit the remnants into a giant bowl, which once full would be thrown to the dogs under the auspice of crucifix. Abelard worshipped Gilles de Rais, yet he had not the stomach for murder himself. He was a voyeur of the art form, though, collecting knives and fantasies rather than stealing out and gutting of souls, the making of pale white sheets of their meat. No, he left the business of butchery to me, which I obliged out of a deep personal need. On the paper, I scrawl Abelard's face as it looked as I drove the knife into his chest. My ledger starts thus, with his face contorted in pain. Then these, the lives I took to please him, to gain his love and affection, to make him happy. He would not hurt a fly, but what we did together was pick a person, usually a young sailor or a widow, or on at least one occasion a child, and set about the task of skulking through the night. And once we felt it safe enough to get off unscathed, I would slip into their house or corner them in a lonely alley or beside the docks, all shaded by cargo, and with Abelard looking at various and indeterminate distances, beat and stab them repeatedly, and then silently, stilly, watch as their blood emptied their flesh, ran red into the streets of the grass or the sand or the rug, the color in their eyes yellowing, until their faces eventually were worn slack by gravity and scream, hung open and stuck. Shortly after, still stained with death and night, their ghosts would enter me by way of Abelard's hips, his fingers gripped tightly about my skull with thrusts. I began a list of names. Miss Bundren, house. Mr. Hyde, dockyard. Mr. Joyce, dockyard. Mr. Boddington, alley. Mr. James, dockyard. Mr. Swift, house. Mr. Christie, Mrs. Christie, beach. Miss Temple, schoolyard. Abruptly, the orderly-looking fellow interrupts my reeling in of memory, sets a glass of water and a pill down beside me and says, "Take that." I look at the pill suspiciously and say, "You take it." He looks at me stunned, "But sir, it's the pill you requested." "I did not request a pill." "You certainly did. It's your nightly cyanide capsule. It helps you sleep." I jog my memory. Nothing comes. only flesh and blood, and a love so deep and wide it consumes me. The jaws of an immense and unjust machine, unnameable, perhaps not Abelard, just an idea, what I wanted for me, in me, outside me, always, a corpse for approximations. The moon dies. I open my eyes to fire. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Holy shit, Troy. That was fabulous. What I like about this piece, you've read a few pieces now at Misery Loves Company, and this piece is on some level quite similar to those pieces, but so fucking substantially different too, right? Like it deals with a lot of the themes that your writing often deals with, you know, with the suicide and the like dark, depraved side of human nature, but stylistically and in terms of its subject matter and your whole approach to this feels so like fundamentally different. And the prose here is so fucking different from anything else that you've read, and yet like so chillingly effective and so vivid. And you do a really great job at capturing like the style of like a piece of like 19th century you know, like existential horror writing, right? Like the style of something like halfway between like a piece by Poe or like a piece by Dostoevsky, you know, one of his like Crime and Punishment, you know, and you get it perfectly, you get that tone perfectly, and it doesn't just feel like a pastiche though. It doesn't just feel like an attempt to replicate like a 19th century story, because as it goes along, it develops this like level of like real wonderful like surrealism to it, like, and it becomes like this true fucking journey into hell. It's so fucking good, Troy. It's fucking fantastic.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Adam has a short poem for us.
Wait,
and then
I
we're
just
gonna
wanted to say.
Okay, Josh.
I just wanted to say, William, let's not categorize Troy's work in with those boring writers.
Josh, shut up!
Because
Adam, please read.
Troy's work was much more visceral.
There it is.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Don't compare
Okay,
him to some of these sleeping dead Russians who nobody cares about.
Oh my god, Josh, you're trying. That's clever. That's clever.
Thank you, though, Josh.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Troy. That's clever, Josh. I see what you're trying to do. You attack some of my favorite authors. You know, I just trying to taunt me into going off on a tangent. And you figure I'll get Will going on Dostoevsky, and then he's gonna piss his fucking pants. That's what you But not tonight, Josh Sherman. Not tonight. Adam, you're up.
Nice hair, Gigi, too. I really like it.
William, do you want to just end the recording and I'll read after?
Oh, don't be a pussy. Just do it.
I was muted. What I said, Adam, was no. You finish it up. I'll be okay.
Okay, in that case, I have two poems instead of one to read. And the other one, the only reason I'm reading the second one is because it involves Dostoevsky. But all right, this is called Attached Garage, 1997. Recognized by Warren G plays from a stereo inside. We are in the garage. The smoke from Cool Brand menthols fills the air. It is a mix of cigarettes and gasoline spills. Half the boys in this garage want Congress with each other, but would kill themselves before they admit it. All of their uncles have already taken them hunting and taught them to hate queers. There are 2 sets of boxing gloves. The boys are passing them around, little 1-round matches where we fight. I am in a corner. I am a pussy. Out of nowhere, I am sucker punched by a bare fist, some guy I barely know. He came from the side. His little blitzkrieg. He's shorter than me, but scary. He yells faggot in my face. It is articulated as figgity, figgity, faggot, an old 90s routine. I'm in shock. My face hurts. I slink, vibrate. Watering mince pies, I'm in flight mode. Find a door to the outside. I run. I am running from him. I am still running from him. I was 14. I ate lunch in the library for a year. I wasn't afraid of him hurting me. I just couldn't stand the humiliation of it all. I couldn't show my face. I learned how to survive alone in my little cubby. I learned how to track the human species. I cataloged hair, scents, the sounds of a contained society. I peer reviewed. At home, I downloaded music and watched Howard Stern on E in my room. Taking meals through the door, dust gathering. I was like Gregor. I am now 38. I am a plastic surgeon, a bachelor. I am afraid of running into him at the gas station, a shop, picking out a card for his wife maybe, because I still think of killing him. I think of a blade entering. In any event, ultra quiet. I keep one in my car. It's a smoke blue Range Rover. I don't want to go to prison. Not yet anyway. I'm not quite over this horrific continuum. All right, I'll read this next one really quick, William. It's called Translations. Beat up in a bar again. Lost my wallet, but not my pride. Nothing has changed since high school in Key West. My daddy is in the shower. I call him Pet, and he knows nothing about the fight in the bar or its origins. Mental note to contrive something to explain bruises and torn shirt. See, I call him Pet even though it's his penthouse and all. My pet's a writer. I pick up a busted copy of the Dictionary of American Slang. Page 737, quote, rough trade, end quote. A tough or sadistic homosexual, as one who affects meanness, wears boots, etc. A male homosexual who prefers anal intercourse for sadistic reasons. A male prostitute who caters to such homosexuals. 1965. The gay boys call us rough trade. We're the ones they date. We're the ones they buy presents for. Shel Silverstein. Silverstein on Fire Island. Playboy. August. Original. Homosexual UC trade. I put it down. Do gin injections. I pick up a copy of The Brothers K, a gift from my pet, the one with the award-winning new translation by Richard Pevere and Larissa Volokhonsky, but it doesn't say what awards. The New York Times Book Review said that one finally gets the musical whole of Dostoevsky's original, but even on the first page, it describes old Karamazov's death as dark and tragic, unlike Macduff, who calls it tragic and fishy. I'm a Macduff loyalist, goddammit. Last gin hits of the night, juniper heaven. My pet walks in, freshly showered. He is in his towel and his boots, a pair of men's Cali Trail by K-Swiss. I shy away. Later, I Google Shel Silverstein and find out he dropped dead in Key West. Then I'm asleep again, back into the haunts of the marble orchards. That's it.
Adam, I love both of these poems. And you know I love both of these poems because I've read both of them before. I know we published translations, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we published the first one. I've read it before because I read your poetry collection. Did we publish the first one, or was the first one published elsewhere? I don't remember that.
No, I think it was just in the book. I don't think you did. Yeah.
Gotcha. First of all, I need to read.
Go pee.
Oh, okay. I do want to say something about that first poem, though, because you are such a great poem of adolescence. There's a lot of poems in your collection that perfectly captures the with like perverse vividness, the experience of adolescence. And I know, like, you and I were teenagers at the same time. We're roughly the same age. So all of the little touchstones that you have, all the little iconography of adolescence is like shared. So that's part of what makes it vivid. But you also really get the psychology of adolescence. And I love in that poem the way that one moment from being a teenager, like, gets so deep in this guy's psyche and gets so deep in his mind that, like, he feels like he would still kill the guy, 2 decades later. And shit, man, like, I understand that. I completely understand that, as I think a lot of people do. Like, how many people still have fucking intrusive thoughts about shit that happened when they were 14 or whatever, and still doesn't know, like, how they would handle it if that's.
I'd still kill Gigi like 20 years from now. For sure.
Okay. Anyway, Adam, that was an awesome fucking poem. 2 awesome fucking poems. Thank you, man. And thank you, everyone who's read tonight. This was an awesome night. This was wonderful. You were all beautiful. So much great work was read. I need to piss. This has been Misery Loves Company. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and share their work. Anyone is welcome to come and just lurk. We tweet out the link to the Zoom call from our Twitter account. Just a few minutes before we start, our Twitter account is @MiseryTourism, all one word. That's fucking it. We're done. Good night, guys.